If you've ever been thankful for tea in all of its forms, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook as we close the week out strong here, the Fed week, that is. Today is the Friday, December 12th edition, where we close the week out strong. We got some news to go over. Obviously, we had Broadcom, Lululemon, and Costco earnings yesterday. We got Mark Putrino on deck here today. No Anne Marie, as she is traveling, so we're going to have options Sandy or Paulo later on today as well. So we got a full day here for Friday before Mice Down Drinks Up time, and you better believe that we are going to make the most of it here today. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the Friday edition for December 12th, 2025, begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. I hope that you all had a wonderful rest of your Thursday. And if you bet on the Falcons yesterday, you probably having a good morning here today. That is for sure. And if you were one of the Kyle Pitts Bulls from years ago when he was drafted, he finally had his breakout game. Hope that y'all had a great rest of your Thursday. We're here to close the week out strong. We've got a market that traded up yesterday and little bit down here in the pre-market, but not a whole lot. Good to see a whole bunch of returning faces. Today, Brent is first. Good morning, Brent. Good to see you again. Marty, good morning. I'm going to blame Lulu, good or bad, for the market today, just trying to be positive. Hey, that's all right. Go ahead. And Lulu's earnings actually were pretty good. That stock filled the gap up to 200 and then ran a little bit further. So perhaps there'll be a little bit more room there in Lulu. And then also for a potential day trade here today, a shorter term trade, if you weren't swinging through earnings, we'll take a look at the pre-market range and we'll wait for that range break, right? Do we break out to the upside? Do we break down? We can plan for a short or a long position there on a short-term trade. So Lulu's definitely going to be in play here today. Marty, I think you're spot on there. Day trader, good morning. Zach, good morning. Bob Marley on the move. Oh, right. The cannabis news. We'll talk about that as well. A lot of the cannabis stocks trading up here after the Trump administration looks to reschedule that. Sun-Kissed Yogi, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you. Producers locked in and ready to go and helping me out with all of the good morning wishes here, which I absolutely love. We start on a positive note every single day around these parts. Yeah, so fine. Good morning. Excited. Christmas is getting close. You and me both, brother. I am... This is my favorite time of the year, despite the weather keeping me off the golf course. It's still my favorite time of the year. I can't wait for that Christmas break. It's going to be a bunch of sports, good food, family and friends. Hard to beat that. Yeah, so fine. We're one day closer. Jay Harris, good morning. Good to see you again. Brian, likewise, good morning. Welcome back. Graf, welcome back. EKS, welcome back. Rescheduling marijuana to Schedule 3. The most significant part of the proposal is directing federal agencies to reclassify cannabis from a Schedule 1 controlled substance to a Schedule 3 controlled substance. This is one of the catalysts that we've been looking for, that we've been hoping for. This administration has touted a number of times that they want to do that, and it looks like we're moving here in the right direction, and those stocks are responding to it here this morning. Kayla, good morning. Welcome back. Drive Me Crazy. Good morning. Welcome back. Jeff, good morning from Champaign and the Fighting Illini. All right. Good morning and welcome back. Despite being born and raised in Illinois, I went to school at Indiana. A couple of my friends went to University of Illinois, so I generally have friendly rivalries with that. But I'm glad that you're here. Welcome back. And actually, how's the Illini basketball team going to be this year? Jeff, you'll have to let me know. I haven't caught any of the games yet. James, good morning. Welcome back. Big Bees, good morning. As always, man, welcome back. M. Sar, good morning. Welcome back. Parmesan, what up? Good morning. Hopefully all is good with you. Bernhard, welcome back. Good to see you again. Eric, good morning. Welcome back. Dirkus, welcome back. Castle, welcome back. Nancy, good morning. Welcome back. Kelly or two, good morning. Welcome back. Let's see. Live to Trade, good morning. Scarlett, good morning. Brandy, welcome back. Good morning. Tyler, good morning. Day Trader says swung a bullish call debit spread on Lulu during earnings. That should pay. Good stuff there, Day Trader. I'll tell you what, no matter your feelings on Lululemon, that chart, and we had been reviewing that chart for a while, that chart was pretty set up. And it's good to see that the earnings move really kind of took us through there. We'll see if it can hold it there today. Eric, good morning. Happy Friday indeed, boss. Pretty Panda, good morning. Welcome back. Ed, good morning. Welcome back. Silly Sabrine, good morning. Gene, good morning. Welcome back. NC Trailer, good morning. It has been a long time. Did you have another handle that I might recognize? Because I don't recognize NC Trailer Rental. You'll have to let me know, but good morning and welcome back as always. Matthew, good morning. Welcome back. Johnny, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back. Archangel, JJ, and Reaching Financial Freedom is back. Super Sam, good morning. Welcome back. Got Motion, good morning. Welcome back. Kevin, Kenneth, and Austin, good morning. Kimo Sabi, good morning. I'm doing a 3-day trading class. Nice. Who's it with? Is it this weekend? Is it over the weekend? And then perhaps most importantly, would love to know how that was when it's completed. Did you find value in it? Is it helpful? Would you recommend it to others? Let us know. Abby, good morning. Welcome back. AGHNA. I don't know really how to say your name, but good morning. Welcome back. Jeff is saying Illinois men's basketball are top 10. Okay. They're going to be pretty good then. They should be tournament favorites, right? When we get around to March. Cool. Heika, good morning. Angelito, good morning. And Neville, good morning. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get this kicked off here today with our stock market today. All right, futures slightly under pressure on this Friday ahead of the open for December 12th. S&P futures down 0.14%. The Dow futures are actually up 0.15%, and the Nasdaq futures leading the way down at 0.56%, likely on the back of those Broadcom earnings that we saw last night. Now let's take a look at some cues from the last session. Industrials, materials, and financials led the gain on Thursday, while communication services and information technology stocks bucked the trend to close lower. Thursday experienced a rotation out of expensive tech names. This is something that we've been on for a while and think is going to continue into 2026. That helped U.S. stocks settle mostly higher, with the Dow Jones surging over 600 points. Overall risk appetite remained resilient following the Federal Reserve's third consecutive interest rate cut delivered just a day earlier. Meanwhile, President Trump signed a sweeping executive order aimed at creating a single national framework for artificial intelligence. Moving to sideline state-level rules, he argued, were hindering America's ability to maintain its leadership in this very important space. The 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.17%, and the 2-year bond yielded 3.53%. Now, we have several stocks here in focus. The first one here is going to be Costco, ticker COST. That was 0.52% lower in the pre-market on Friday, despite reporting better than expected financial results for the first quarter of fiscal 2026 after the bell on Thursday. We'll take a look at Costco today and see if we can set up a potential add or a swing trade there. Broadcom is the next stock on our list here that dropped 5.18% as it delivered disappointing guidance regarding shrinking gross margins and a sharply higher tax rate for fiscal 2026. Lululemon is the third stock on our stocks in focus list here today, ticker LULU. It jumped 9.49% after posting better than expected results for the third quarter and raising its full year guidance. The company announced a CEO succession plan for Calvin McDonald and also authorized an increase to its share buyback program. The next stock on our list is Restoration Hardware, ticker RH. That was 4.26% higher despite posting mixed results for the third quarter after the closing bell on Thursday. Restoration Hardware reported quarterly earnings of $171 per share, which missed the analyst estimate of $216 per share by 21%, or just about 21%. Quarterly revenue came in at $883.81 million. That beat the street consensus of $883.69 million. Very, very tiny beat there. The last stock on our list is Tilray, ticker TLRY, surged 28.11% following the company's announcement of its amped live resin liquid diamond product line. As also mentioned, there's a move to reclassify cannabis to Schedule 3 from Schedule 1, and that is affecting all of the cannabis stocks. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and figure out what is on deck here for today. It looks pretty simple to me. We are still flashing the sign that we are trying to break out. Yesterday in the after hours session, we actually did set a new all-time high. I have that high print at 691.24. That, of course, is higher than the 689.70 high print that we put in on October 29th. Now, for today's session, if we look inside at the SPY here, you can see we're a little bit lower. We're basically right under where we closed. We're down by 40 cents from yesterday's close. You'll notice, though, in the after hours, initially we traded up because Lululemon traded up. Broadcom, their first move was actually up before they reversed and gave it all back and then went red, and that's where they're holding here today. So the initial move here was higher on the SPY. Those gains slowly bled back in the after hours, and there's slight weakness here today, although I don't really think this is anything to get excited about. We'll see how the market opens here today and see how it trades. I'm not ready to say that today is going to be a risk off or short day just because we're a little bit lower. I want to see what that opening print looks like, and I want to see what the volume's like on some of these earnings plays in the Friday New York session here today. But looking at the daily chart here, it does look like we want to make a move towards that 700 level on the SPY. That would coincide with 7,000 on the S&P or the futures chart. And then our support areas are still the same beneath us. I would be looking at the 20-day and the 50-day here. I think that the trend line that we have has now just been invalidated or broken through, I guess we should say. Perhaps that will create some support, but likely not until next year, I'm thinking, meaning I don't think we test. If we extend that trend line, I don't think that gets tested until the calendar reads 2026. We'll see if that's how it actually shakes out here. Now, let's take a look at some insights from analysts. Good friend Scott Wren, senior global market strategist at Wells Fargo Investment Institute, maintains a 40,000, almost said 4,000, a 40,000 foot view of U.S. economy that anticipates, quote, moderate growth and easing price pressures, end quote, heading into 2026. He expects GDP growth to improve and inflation to moderate compared to 2025, creating an environment where risk assets should do well, particularly equities. Remember, we've been going over a lot of stats from a bunch of different people, from everywhere from Jeremy Siegel to Ryan Dietrich and everyone in between. And it does seem like there's a lot of kind of bullish sentiment going forward here. The stats show that we're likely going to be higher, or at least based on historical norms. So we'll see if we end up getting that here. Wren projects S&P 500 earnings growth of slightly more than 11%, supported by key trends such as AI infrastructure spending, deregulation, and significant tax refunds. In fact, you take it with a grain of salt because we haven't seen any data on it yet, but the administration has said that this is going to be one of the best tax return seasons coming up here. We'll see if that actually ends up materializing. I'm all for it if that's the case. Despite this optimism, Wren advises active management, stating that now is not the time to put portfolios on autopilot. He recommends rotating funds from communication services and information technology, both recently downgraded to neutral, into sectors with more upside potential. This is great to see because these are things that we've been talking about here on this program for what feels like months at this point. Specifically, he highlights financials, industrials, and utilities as favorite sectors. Wren notes that opportunity in the latter two is largely tied to AI CapEx spending and the necessary upgrades to the electrical grid to support data centers. All right, let's take a look here at Broadcom. That'll be our first earnings play that we will cover here today. Let's start with the chart. Here is what it looks like. First of all, the one thing to note, Broadcom, one of the patterns that we've seen here. Obviously, the top and bottom line beat is one thing, but the next, perhaps more important thing is the guide higher. And then the other pattern that we've recognized is stocks that seem to run into the print often have more trouble trading higher post-print. And that's exactly what we're seeing here in Broadcom. So we were right up near this $400 level, right up near all-time highs on Broadcom. The report came out. Now we've traded back down to the 20-day. So the thought here is, where's the level to buy the dip on this? Because certainly doesn't seem like AI is going away. And we were just talking about how analysts think that equities should outperform in 2026. So where's the dip buy spot here? And I'm looking at the chart. We're currently at 380.86 or 380.76, excuse me, in the pre-market here. We're basically right near the 20-day moving average, that value 377.87. We'll see if we can hold that. But frankly, even if we trade beneath that, I would expect some support near the 50-day. And in fact, when I look to the left on the chart here, the times that we did break through the 20-day, that's exactly what we did. We traded down to the 50-day. The one caveat here was in the beginning to middle of November, we did trade beneath the 50-day, and it took a little bit to get back above it. This is slightly different from the previous visits down to that moving average where we just bounced clean off of the average. So if you're looking for a dip buy here on Broadcom, perhaps one of the strategies to kind of mitigate some of that risk would maybe be to, if we trade down to that 362, 362 and a half, maybe adding a little there and then reserving it in case we dip beneath it and then reclaim it. Maybe you can add to your position and slightly dollar cost average a little bit lower. But we are expecting a bounce at some point here in Broadcom. I'm not really in any hurry on this name, to be quite honest with you. I'll wait for this to kind of settle out. I'll wait for the chart to tell us when the buy spot actually is. Let's take a look at the report itself. Broadcom reported fourth quarter financial results for fiscal 2025 after the market closed yesterday. They reported fourth quarter revenue of $18.02 billion, which beat the analyst estimate of $17.49 billion. The company reported adjusted earnings of $1.95 per share in the fourth quarter, which beat the estimate of $1.86 per share. Revenue in the quarter was up 28% on a year-over-year basis, driven primarily by a 74% year-over-year surge in AI semiconductor revenue. Quote, "We see momentum continuing in Q1 and expect AI semiconductor revenue to double year-over-year to $8.2 billion, driven by custom AI accelerators and Ethernet AI switches." End quote. That came from Hock Tan, president and CEO of Broadcom. Broadcom generated approximately $7.7 billion in cash from operations and $7.47 billion in free cash flow during the period. The company exited the fourth quarter with approximately $16.18 billion in cash and cash equivalents. Broadcom's board approved a 10% quarterly cash dividend increase to 65 cents per share, payable on December 31st to shareholders of record on December 22nd. So if you're looking to buy Broadcom for the dividend, December 22nd is that day that you need to own it by. Broadcom expects fiscal first quarter revenue of approximately $19.1 billion versus estimates of $18.27 billion. The semiconductor company anticipates first quarter adjusted EBITDA at 67% of projected revenue. Broadcom executives further discussed the call, and actually, that's really what did Broadcom in. It seemed like it really started to sell off when that conference call took place. Now, it did slide 4% despite that beat, but on that call, management warned, of Q1 margin squeeze and tax hikes that could overshadow AI growth. Despite a 74% surge in AI sales, investors focused heavily on disappointing guidance regarding shrinking gross margins and a sharply higher tax rate for fiscal 2026. While the company posted the fourth quarter revenue of $18.02 billion that beat the analyst estimate at $17.49 billion, management offered a cautious outlook for profitability that really kind of spooked the market. CFO Kristen Spears guided for first quarter gross margins to drop approximately 100 basis points sequentially. This comparison is driven by a shift in revenue mix towards lower margin AI hardware components, fueling fears of profitless growth where top-line expansion comes at the cost of efficiency. Compounding the bearish sentiment, Broadcom focused its non-GAAP tax rate will jump from 14% to approximately 16.5% in 2026 due to the global minimum tax and geographic income shifts. This 2.5% hike presents a direct headwind to future earnings per share, forcing analysts to recalibrate their models downward despite the company's growth. The sell-off stands in stark contrast to Broadcom's operational momentum. CEO Hock Tan revealed a massive $73 billion backlog on AI orders, comprising custom accelerators or XPUs and networking gear scheduled for delivery over the next 18 months. The company also secured its fifth custom silicon customer with a $1 billion initial order. However, Tan tempered expectations for the timeline for its high-profile partnership with OpenAI. He clarified that the 10 gigawatt power agreement discussed in recent reports is a long-term project slated for the 2027 to 2029 timeline, essentially removing it as a catalyst for fiscal 2026. Beyond the AI hype, Broadcom's core business remains stuck in neutral. The company expects non-AI semiconductor revenue to remain flat year over year in the first quarter, noting, quote, limited signs of recovery, end quote, in enterprise spending. While Broadcom raised its quarterly dividend 10% to 65 cents per share, the lack of broader cyclical recovery combined with margin pressures ultimately overshadowed the quarter's record-breaking headline numbers. Now, really quickly, it is worth noting here, Broadcom still has a very high momentum score, still has a very high quality score. We would expect the value score to be lower, as we've talked about a lot of these PE ratios really being a little bit too high in the tech sector and those needing to come in, so that's no surprise. Growth here down to 40, although still not terrible, and that intact short, medium, and long-term trend. Okay, the next stock we're going to take a look at here is Lululemon. Here it is, and giddy up. We have a move higher here. Lulu sitting at 205.50 in the pre-market here. And again, one of the things that we have been looking for was this sideways area to really kind of get broken out of. Now, there were a couple of head fakes in here. I had talked about the seasonality really being strong through the end of the year. We had talked about some of these recent areas that it needs to clear out, including this gap fill up to 200. And the good news about that is we actually have the 200-day here at 231.11. So it sure looks like the next target higher, if Lululemon can hold its strength, is in fact going to be that 231 spot. If we take a look at the 5-minute chart, it becomes a little bit more clear about how the stock is trading. When we got the report, the initial impulse move, what did it do? It went right to the gap fill. And then it consolidated there for about 10 minutes before finally taking another leg higher here and then closing the after-hour session above that gap fill level. We are doing a really good job holding above that level here again today. So key levels for today. The round 200 number, absolutely going to be a key level if we turn around and come in. This was the gap fill level or thereabouts, maybe not exactly, but very, very close. Obviously, we have the round number that has its own psychological effect there. But I'd be looking here at 200 on downside for Lululemon. If I turn the VWAP on here and we take a look inside, I'm thinking for the possibility of the trade here today. I told you we would take a look at the range. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's go ahead and mark this off. I'm actually going to do the after hours range yesterday. I want to make this range a little bit wider here. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark the bottom and we're going to mark the top. So this bottom area here, I've got this at about 203. We can probably layer on the 200 area there as well. And then I have the top end of that range just about 210. I have it marked on the chart here at 209.88, but we can just call it 210. And as far as the trade, we'd be looking for a break out and back test, and then another move higher, or a break down, back test, and then another move lower. If we get that, we can trade that accordingly. So this is kind of what I'm looking at for Lulu. Let's take a look at the report here for Lulu. Shares climbed in Thursday's extended trading after the company released its third quarter earnings report. It reported quarterly earnings of $2.59 per share, which beat the analyst estimate of $2.27 per share by 14.15%, according to Benzinga Pro. Quarterly revenue of $2.57 billion beat the street estimate of $2.48 billion, and that was up from revenue of $2.4 billion in the same period last year. The company announced that Calvin McDonald plans to step down as CEO effective January 31st, 2026. CFO Megan Frank and CCO Andre Masterini will serve as interim co-CEOs while the board looks for a successor. I think the key note here is that I believe that the board is going to look everywhere. They're not just going to conduct their search internally. They're actually going to look outside as well. I'm not sure who's going to take over here. If we recognize the name, we can analyze it then. But CEO succession happening here, and the effective date there is January 31st. Lululemon's board of directors approved a $1 billion increase to the company's stock repurchase program. That should also bolster the price here. For the quarter, net revenue increased 7% to $2.6 billion. America's net revenue decreased 2%, and international net revenue increased 33%. Now, this America's net revenue decreasing, I suspect that this is on things like competition from other brands like Alo, Viore, Fabletics, etc. It still seems to be strong amongst the international crowd. Comparable sales increased 1% or 2% on a constant dollar basis. America's comparable sales decreased by 5%, while the international comparable sales increased 18%. Quote, in the third quarter, our teams remain focused on driving improvements within our U.S. businesses and maintaining momentum in our international regions, end quote. That came from McDonald, the outgoing CEO. Goes on to say, while we are beginning to make progress against our action plan and continue to expect to see the impact of this work in 2026. As we enter the holiday season, we are encouraged by our early performance. That's key there. He's kind of telling you that they're encouraged with their holiday sales numbers. This is great for our long side trade plan that we've kind of come up with. And this should also dovetail nicely with the seasonality that the stock traditionally experiences during this time frame. So looking pretty good there. All signs are a go here on Lulu. Congrats to anyone that traded that for earnings. Next here, my favorite store, Costco. So this is what the Costco chart looks like. Now, the interesting thing here is that the option buyers on this print got absolutely smoked. All right, let's see what we had here. We had options imply a 3% move. Now, that's not really that much. That's certainly not much for some of the other like momentum stocks that we take a look at. But even for Costco, that's a fairly low percentage. We're down 0.2 here today. So option buyers not doing so great with this print. Again, taking a look at Costco where we sit on the 5-minute chart, we're basically flat. There was some action both to the upside and the downside. So it's definitely look to try and test some of those ranges. Perhaps the recent lows looks like it kind of bounced off that recent low from Wednesday. When we go back to the daily chart, we get another very clear idea of where we're at here. And the big key level that jumps out is an obvious one. It is, in fact, that 500-day moving average. We're clearly trying to use this as support. The price is $2 beneath that 500-day moving average value of $886.88. We do have a recapture, I should say a potential recapture on our hands here today. And if we do that, that puts the 900 or 899 level, 899 to 900 squarely in place. That's going to be your 20-day moving average as well as the round 900 level. It's also worth noting that this was a support area back from March and then again in April, I believe, when we had the Liberation Day panic. And this was also a consolidation area from the fall of 2024. So this is an area that Costco has spent some time in. I know we've kind of been in a slow, very orderly downtrend here on Costco, but I would look right now for some support here. I know that there were several folks talking about 800 really kind of being a level for Costco here. I gotta be honest, my gut tells me that we probably don't see that level on this pullback. I think it's going to bounce from here. We'll see how it shakes out. If we do start to trade back up, we've got a bunch of stacked moving averages that we can use as targets for that potential trade. So good stuff there with the Costco chart. As far as I'm concerned, even given the fact that it was in a downtrend. Costco reported financial results for the first quarter of fiscal 2026 after the bell on Thursday. They reported first quarter revenue of $67.31 billion, which beat the estimate of $67.14 billion. The membership-based retailer reported fourth quarter adjusted earnings of $4.50 per share, which beat the estimates of $4.27 per share. Net sales for the fourth quarter were up 8.2% year over year. Total comparable sales were up 6.4% on a year over year basis. Here's a breakdown of some of those comparable sales by region. In the US, it increased 5.9%. In Canada, it was an increase of 6.5%. And in other international segment, it was an increase of 8.8%. Membership fees came in at approximately $1.33 billion. That was up from $1.17 billion in the prior quarter. Costco said it currently operates 923 warehouses, including 633 in the U.S. The company exited the first quarter with approximately $16.22 billion in cash and cash equivalents. And perhaps the most important thing, yes, the dog and soda is still $1.50 at Costco. That, of course, hasn't changed. All right, so that takes care of the earnings and everything that took place last night. It is 8:30 and it's 8:30 on a Friday, so y'all know what that means. It is going to be time for our good friend Mark Putrino. Let's bring him on and give him a nice warm welcome. Mark, good morning. How you doing here today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Look, it's cold here, and I just made a joke that the cold keeps me off the golf course. But Mark, I got really good news. I am going to the simulator tomorrow, so we are going to keep that thing warm throughout the cold winter here, and we are going to be ready to tear it up at Wingfoot with you next year.
How cold is it there?
Right now, let's see. Right now it's 24, but we are expecting single digits both Saturday and Sunday for the Bears game. So it's gonna get even colder here
Oh, well,
this weekend.
that's why they call it winter, I guess, right?
And that is exactly why they call it winter. Indeed. What do you got for us today, boss?
Well, it's amazing how many people, I'm going to try my share my screen here, are talking about how bad the market is. And the reality is, we're like right at an all-time high here. And there's been this rotation going on. You see people get myopically focused on technology. And that's great when tech's lead in the market. But if we look at these sectors, here's our technology sector. So what I'm going to do is look at the ETFs that track these sectors. There's 11 sectors, and different sectors are in the driver's seat at different times. And here's tech, which actually is frankly not doing that bad, considering that Microsoft and Nvidia have not been participating.
And now
So
Broadcom selling off too.
yeah, yeah, and tech is holding up pretty well. The financials had a pretty massive breakout here to all-time new highs. I mean, look at that. And it's continuing this morning. I guess with the interest rate cut out of the way, it was although it was all baked into the cake. I don't know. I guess you could say, well, the uncertainty's out of the way, and industrial stocks are flying as well. So we have another breakout here. So that's pretty impressive action. Now I was looking at some charts, which is what I do, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I found this chart of the S&P going all the way back to the 1870s or 1871 is when this. So this is the S&P 500, and this here is the railroad bubble where we lost 50%. Not, I shouldn't say we because I wasn't there, but we dropped about 50%. But look at what you see in the chart, right? The same stuff that we see now. You get support here in 1884, and then the market sells off in 1893, 1896, and you get support at the former support level. Just like up here, support at former support levels. Here you get what was resistance become support. There's resistance up here, resistance at a former resistance level, just like here. See, people buy at the top, and then when the price goes down, they regret buying, and they say, if I can ever get out of this thing at break even, I will. So when it returns to their buy price, they place sell orders. So now let's fast forward 150 years to now, and you basically see the same patterns, right? Support at former support, resistance at former resistance. So I think it's interesting to look at this chart, or even this chart. This is the Dow Jones going back to its beginning, because it really emphasizes that when we look at these charts, what we're looking at is psychology, right? And people, AI this and big data that, things are transformational. Yeah, well, of course they are. But guess what? Imagine back in the late 1800s, if you were a rural farmer and someone played a radio for you. Like, what would you think? To me, that seems like it would almost be like incomprehensible. Like someone was playing a trick on you, like they had little people hiding in the radio or something.
Yeah, and there's a famous example that if Einstein ever watched television, he would claim that it's witchcraft.
Huh.
For the same type of thing, right? It's we kind of take it for granted here, but back then you'd have been dumbfounded by it.
Yeah, exactly. So things are revolutionary, but markets are markets, and when they run out of buyers, they go down. So, it happened. I remember in the internet bubble very clearly, because that's when I came up as a trader, and it was like, oh, the internet is so revolutionary, it's going to change things. And of course it did, but it didn't change the way markets work, because markets are basically supply and demand, right? And if there's no one else to buy, then it doesn't matter how revolutionary your technology is, the market is going to go down. So anyway, I just think it's an important thing to keep in mind that when we look at these charts, I mean, think about this. They didn't have cars back then. They didn't have electricity, but yet they had markets, and they had herd mentality and crowd behavior, just like we do now.
Yeah, given that this is all psychology based and this has been going on for hundreds of years, why do you think that we still get these same types of movements, like big dramatic down movements? If you just expand your time horizon, it doesn't even matter when it was. If you just simply expand your time horizon and take a longer term view, things end up going back up and it represents a buying opportunity. This has been going on for hundreds of years. Why do you suppose there are people that still kind of don't necessarily believe it or get spooked on the down move? Is it just human nature? Is that basically what it is?
Yeah, it's human nature. It's what we call it's not sentimentality bias. It's one of the other biases. I forget which one it is, but where people start thinking like this time it's different. This is going to be different. Yeah, if civilization doesn't collapse, and of course it might, and we know the UFOs are coming in 2026, but that could be a benefit.
I'm
But
ready.
anyway, that's another story.
I'm ready for the peaceful ones, and you best believe I'm ready for the hostile ones too, Mark.
Anyway, oh yeah, my wife saw a UFO. I probably mentioned it before. She has a picture of it too, which is pretty
No,
amazing.
you have not mentioned that. I'd love to see that. And if there's a picture, giddy up.
She was coming back from Atlanta a couple of months ago, and this is gonna freak you guys. So anyway, look at this UFO sphere.
I didn't have UFOs on my bingo card for this morning, but I got to be honest with you. I can't tell you how excited I am that this is making an appearance here.
All right, you see this? This is exactly what she took a picture of. It looks like this golf ball. So she's coming back from Atlanta. She sees it, and the picture is very small. It's not this big. You can blow it up though. So anyway, she sees this thing and she takes a picture of it, and then she goes to film it, and it was bopping around, and it doesn't show up in the film. It's on the picture, but it's not in the film or in the video. So pretty amazing, man. NASA astronaut says two metallic orbs almost hit his plane. So these are like legitimate people are making reports now. It's not just a bunch of whack jobs.
Yeah, no, to me, that, what, just as kind of an aside, the reports from pilots, people that know exactly what they're looking at, have to be sharp and have to be paying attention and are certainly not crazy. Reports from pilots hold a little bit more weight, if you will, than some of the regular folk.
Yeah, this here is this was taken by two pilots. It was two different planes of two pilots from the Nimitz, the USS Nimitz, and the Navy officially released these. And the pilots were saying they were flying, and the thing was going like a checkerboard. It was like making 90-degree turns without like slowing down. And at one point, the planes were 50 yards apart from each other. The thing flew right in between them, and one of the pilots was like, "I think whoever was flying that thing was mocking us." So
yeah, that's the famous gimbal video. That one also a really kind of crazy. Lion Atlas doesn't believe any of this. He says it's just a flying kid's ball. So you can tell your wife not to worry.
Yeah, but kid from what civilization? How about that?
That's a good follow up there. That's a good follow up there.
All right, back to reality here, or a different kind of reality. I was actually looking at Oracle for maybe a potential bounce here, and this is something that we see in markets, and this is actually what I'm going to write about today for stock of the day. But anyway, if we go back to December and January, what happens? Oracle gets up here and we hit resistance. Now, after we hit the resistance, the stock goes down. People who sold were happy. But when the resistance breaks, a lot of the people who sold all of a sudden are not so happy. And they say to themselves, I made a mistake. I'm going to buy my shares back, but I'm only going to do so if I could get them at the same price I sold them at. So lo and behold, months later, when the stock goes into this big sell-off, where does it find support? And the answer is the level that was resistance. There was so many remorseful sellers from here placing buy orders here that it created support. So it's not a coincidence. Some analysts and investors think that markets are random and that you can't predict them, but they're wrong. They're just looking at the wrong things. If markets were random, there wouldn't be a such thing as a support level or a resistance level. All levels would have the same amount of importance. But clearly, you don't need to be a chart guru to see that this is an important price level for this stock, right around 191.
Yeah, and furthermore, just to kind of steel man the point that you're making there, you certainly wouldn't see those levels, behave the way they do 200 years ago or 100 year or whatever it is. You had 18 to 150 years ago. Let's split the difference there. So I totally get you on that one. One thing about that chart there for Oracle, because we were actually looking at this yesterday, just you're a chart guy. You spend a lot of time looking at charts. You've looked at a lot of charts. This does look like a very clean support. It absolutely looks like it wants to bounce off that. But the one thing that's got me nervous is we've got that gap. If you go, right between that May and that candle there, I'm like pointing at my screen like you can see it. There's right there, right where your cursor is. There's that little bit of a gap beneath there. And to me, that almost means that would be like kind of a secondary area of support if you drew a horizontal line after that gap fill. So I'm with you here. I think Oracle eventually is going to be a buy. This is kind of what I'm looking at on my chart.
Yeah. So I think right now it's one of these things where it's like at a fork in the road. It's going to break one way or the other. I don't know which way it's going to be, but once it happens, that's when you can jump in. And if you're an options trader and it's going down, then you can think about buying puts. But anyway, it's pretty interesting how rapidly things change in the markets, just in terms of the sentiments and the convictions. I mean, it was 3 months ago, this stock has lost 40 some odd percent in just 3 months. Remember this, like how euphoric everyone was when, I guess that was earnings happened there. But anyway, pretty interesting stuff. So if anyone has any questions or anything we want to look at in particular, we can.
Yeah, I want to start with one here, if that's all right. We'll definitely take some suggestions here from the chat. We got plenty of time, folks. So what stocks you want to take a look at? That's not English. Come on. Let me know what stocks you'd like to take a look at. Mark, I would suggest we start with Lulu because they also just reported earnings here. We just filled a gap. We were trading sideways. It actually looks like it might run up to 231, which is where the 200-day is. So I would say let's start with Lulu here, but I would open that to the chat.
Yeah, this looks like we could be on the well, we had one breakout, right? And now look at where we just happen to be. Where has this stock found resistance in the pre-market here? And the answer is, well, look at that. Right at the level that was resistance before. So this isn't a coincidence. Here we find resistance at a level that was resistance. Here we've now found resistance at a level that was resistance. And it's the buyer's remorse. People who bought here have been underwater since, and now they see an opportunity to get out at break even, so they're selling. Now, we know there's a large amount of sellers around this 207 level. If we can get above that, we call that a breakout. And the reason why a breakout is considered a bullish thing is because if you get above the level that was resistance and you can hold there, well, then you can infer that the people who created the resistance, meaning the sellers, have gone. They've either finished their order or canceled their orders. So getting above a resistance level is a graphical illustration that you've taken a lot of supply out of the market. Now, people tend to forget for some reason, but the market is a market. It's supply and demand. If there's more demand than supply, things go up. And if there's more supply than demand, things go down. So when we look at these charts, what we want to do is think about what does it show us about the psychology and what does it show us about what is the pricing telling us about the psychology. Look at this, right? Here's another example. Just like we saw of the S&P 50 years ago, you get support at levels that had been support before. So this is also at a key level here. So we're basically right on this line. So a lot of times this is the way some of these things go, right? So right now you have all these institutional money managers that are out there. And I know how this works because I was that world for 20 some odd years. And the traders generally get in pretty early, like around 6 or 7. But then the analysts come in around 8 or 8:30 and they go in the conference room and they go through the numbers. And by about 10 o'clock, they're finally finished analyzing it. And they say, these Lulu numbers were good, but they weren't that good. So let's go start selling and take advantage of the strength. So if you get that reversal, it tends to happen around mid-morning a lot of times. If it turns out they look through the numbers and the numbers are good and they think the move is justified, then the stock will basically stay here all day or maybe even trend higher into the close. But look for that potential trend shift around mid-morning.
It's funny, we talk about that all the time. It does seem like there a lot of the times mid-morning there's almost like a volume lull, almost as if people are getting up from their desks and walking away, which I just find interesting that you're kind of correlating that here with some of analysts and the discussions that they have in some of their morning meetings and what that means later in the session.
Yeah, that's how it works. There's every place I've ever been at. They go in there and they it's like blah 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 blah. Let's look at this model. Let's see what this guy says. But then come 10:30, they come out of there, or 10 or 10:30, and they come over to the trading desk and they say, "Hey, let's start selling Lululemon. This is ridiculous." Or let's start buying it. This is really good.
Okay. Good stuff there, Mark. I think the key point here is that the initial impulse move after the earnings took us to the gap fill level. The second leg higher took us to that second black line that you have just shy of 210. So exactly. The levels that you're outlining here, crystal clear from the price behavior of Lululemon so far.
Yeah. So this is 207. Like 207, 208 is where that line is, and that's right where we stalled out. So it's not a coincidence.
Yeah. All right. Next one here. These two, I know we look at these often, but I actually think that there might be some more we should take a look at here. Let's do Netflix and then Hood. One of the reasons that I'm bringing up Netflix is because the chart's one thing, Mark, but the other thing for me is like I definitely want to own Netflix. I think there's another up move coming. Okay, let me just set the stage for that. I want to buy this. I think there's another up move coming. I like that it's down from its highs. But we have a very key kind of fundamental thing hanging over this. We've got this potential acquisition of Warner Brother Discovery, and they're now locked in a bidding war with Paramount Skydance. And it's like they're going to have to pay more for these assets, which means more cash leaving the company. Thus, you could make an argument that the stock's going to continue to go down. My big thing here is that until I have clarity on that fundamental issue, I'm almost not trusting what I see in the chart. So when you look at this, what do you think about the chart? And then if you have any opinion on what's kind of affecting this from this potential merger and acquisition and how that might affect the trade, I'd love to hear it.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the news will play out or if another potential bidder will come along. But I mean, it's pretty clear that you got some support around 83.25 and we're really oversold. But this is this type of situation where, you never want to guess, right? One of the biggest reasons why traders lose money is because they guess. They get into something or they buy something, and buying is easy because it's exciting. It's like you have a new friend to watch, or it's exciting to buy a new stock. But selling is hard. And a lot of people get into something and they don't think about how they're going to get out of it. And that's really the secret of trading, of being successful. It's not what you buy. It's how do you get out of your positions? How do you exit for a loss? How do you exit for a profit? So the point is you need to have a bunch of parameters worked out there so you don't just guess. Now, for me, I would say if Netflix gets down to around 83 or so and starts to reverse, that's when I would jump in. I wouldn't try to pick the bottom. So how could I define a reversal? Well, maybe if the RSI line down here gets back up above the horizontal red lower threshold, for example. So now it's like, okay, well, if we get close to support and the RSI line turns north, I'm going to buy. And that's it. I don't have to think. I don't have to guess. How will I exit my position? Well, I would say, considering we're buying off of this support, my initial stop out, meaning, hey, I was wrong. This went against me, but I'm going to blow out of this just with a little loss, would be right below where I bought it. And then if the thing starts trending higher, well, then you bring your stop loss up beneath it. For example, you say, all right, if this reverses by 2 points, I'm going to get out. And it goes to 96, well, then your stop out is at 94. If it goes to 97, then you move your stop out up to 95. So the idea with the trailing stop is that if you have some profits on the table, you'll walk away with some if the stock rolls over before it gets to your price target.
Okay, and then a couple of follow-up questions here real quick. Lion Atlas is saying, I don't care because I'm just going to dollar cost average this money making machine on the way down. That's one way to look at it. Izzy here, kind of with a similar view, I suppose, or related, if you will. Netflix, if it's a long term view, does it really matter if you add it here around 94 or 86?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you do the math, like, say Netflix goes to 200, I don't, there was a point in my life where I could figure out the math was, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big difference in terms of returns. So you don't necessarily need to be an active trader. I mean, some people just don't want to, some people can't because they have work commitments and so forth. But I'm not a believer in the whole buy and hold and put it away and forget about it, because in bad markets, even really good companies go down a lot. Now that for all intents and purposes, we're at all-time highs in the market, it's easy to say buy and hold is a great strategy. Well, back in 2008 and 2009, the market lost 50%, just like I showed with the railroad bubble back in the 1870s. The market was down by 50%. So if you were someone who just happened to be retiring in 2008 or 2009 and you had a buy and hold mentality, well, guess what? You had half the money that you did the year before. Now, when we get to these major parts of markets where you get something like in April, where it was like this screaming buying opportunity of, I don't want to say of a lifetime, but of at least a couple of years, 5 years maybe. And eventually we're going to get to the opposite, where it's like a major selling opportunity when people get really euphoric. So just by managing your portfolio and making little tweaks at certain times over the long run, you can really make a substantial difference. For example, markets tend to go down faster than they go up. So if you get to a point where you really think the market's going to go down, what you can do is you can buy inverse ETFs that go up if the market goes down. So I remember when I first started the Benzinga trading school in the winter, it was actually the spring of 22. I was actually playing golf and with a guy, and it turns out he was a securities attorney. And we were talking, and I was telling him about how my students were doing so well. And he's like, how are they doing well when we got this rampant inflation and we got the stock markets getting crushed? And the answer is, well, because some of them are in the inverse ETFs that go up if the stock market goes down, and some of them are in the inflation-based commodities ETFs that tracked inflation. So instead of just kind of playing the waiting game, I think there's certain times where it really makes sense to make some portfolio shifts, and over 10 or 15 years, it can make a significant difference.
Okay. Real quickly here, EKS says the guest is not a long-term investor. What kind of trading and investing would you say that you do, Mark?
Oh, me? Oh, I'm short term, man. I'm like, I take positions for a couple of days generally.
Okay. So
I mean,
more
I
of like a
have like
short-term
IRA
swing
accounts.
trading?
What's that?
Like a short-term swing trading, you'd almost classify yourself as? You don't day trade, do you?
Sometimes I do.
Okay.
But going back to the question that was on the table before, let's just say that Netflix goes to 140. Well, if you buy it now and it goes to 140, you're up about 50%. If you bought Netflix when it was coming off of this support and it went to 140, you're up about 65%. So, over the years, could be a substantial difference.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there on Netflix. Appreciate the questions. And Mark, I appreciate you kind of answering some of those. That's always real helpful. Thought process, I always feel like, is really helpful. Let's take a look at Hood.
All right. Let's see what we got here with Hood. So, yeah, I had this line in here for some reason. Yeah, I mean, I would say it looks like we've kind of held support coming back a little bit, maybe a little bit of an overreaction.
Now,
But
let me ask you, Mark. I look at this, I see the very clear range that you have identified by these horizontal levels, but I also see a series of lower highs kind of stepping down from that October month. Does that tell you anything at all? Like, hey, maybe we might end up testing that lower range that's down there by 100 that you also have identified on the chart?
um, yeah, it is kind of curious that this is trending down when you got all these other brokers are really doing well. Let's take a look at Bank of America. Huh. Yeah, I mean, there might be something to that. Let me just look at these the broker dealer index. Yeah, so this is the broker dealer index. So it's a little I would ask, why is Hood trading contrary to the other brokers? Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that could be a sign that something is not right. But I guess in the short term, I would just watch this $121
Yeah.
level or so. And as long as we're hanging above that, I think we're okay. If we start to break that support, then I might think about bailing.
Some other stocks that you could compare to this that folks trade all the time would be Bull, Bull, and then SoFi, which is being mentioned here by Ryan. So I know you were just looking at the broker dealer ETF there. That actually looks like that's helping Bull here kind of come off the bottom, that recent move higher in that other chart that you just showed us.
Yeah, this looks like a nice little reversal. I would watch here, right? So once again, we see the look at where this thing rallied and look at where it hit resistance, right? Was that just some random coincidence? The
No,
answer is no. It's
no.
the support from back here. So this could be this could be a potential thing to watch for a breakout. Remember, resistance is a large group of sellers. If we get above that, we can infer that those sellers have either finished or canceled their orders. Regardless, they're out of the market. So when you take sellers out of a market, it sets the stage for a move higher, because if new buyers come in, it's going to be like, okay, where the heck are all the sellers? And they got to go into a bidding war and outbid each other, and that could force the price higher. So that's what I would be thinking on this one, is waiting for a break of this 1030 level.
Okay. Okay. There you go for Bull. How about silver, SLV?
Silver has been a monster.
Yeah, it
And I
has.
don't even know what's going on, but I got some, so I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah, I mean, look at that. It's up again. I don't even know what to say about this. You just kind of go for the ride, and then once it gets extremely overbought, which it is now, you just kind of wait for a reversal, because things that are overbought can keep going for a while. So one potential way to think about trading this is, if the RSI reverses, that could be signal of potential top. Like here, I mean, I know it was really choppy here, but when we got extremely overbought, which is sometimes on these indicators, you got to take into account that we're in this uptrend here, right? So the RSI is interpreted as, if the blue line is above this horizontal 70 line, it's considered to be overbought. But you got to give yourself more leeway in an up market than in, say, a sideways market or a down market. So maybe when silver was going sideways, if it got to 70, it was overbought, right? Here or here. But now that it's going higher and it's in this uptrend, you got to maybe kind of adjust your figures and say, all right, well, silver in this uptrend doesn't get overbought until the RSI gets to, say, 80. And if it gets above 80 and then you make the downturn, that could be your selling signal. So remember, these indicators, they all come with default settings, and generally the default settings are pretty good, but you do have to understand that they're not perfect.
Yeah.
And if something is going down, maybe it gets overbought when the stock is at, or when the RSI is at 65 instead of 80.
Mark, is this an example of where you would use a trailing stop to exit this as it just
Yeah,
keeps running up?
no doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to let the market tell you what to do, because it's impossible to pick the top. So, yeah, you just trail and stop, whatever. If it reverses by X%, that's where you sell it. And until then, you just watch it keep going higher.
Okay. If you have time for one more, I would say QCOM.
Okay.
And then that'll do it here for today.
Yeah, I do have a 9 o'clock meeting.
Okay, we'll have to do it quick. Sorry. And Mark, if you don't have time, that's okay too. We
Oh, no, that's
understand.
okay. I don't know. I don't really see much here. It's I mean, I guess I'd probably look for some short-term resistance around there, but basically it's kind of doing nothing in the pre-market, and it was kind
Yeah.
of didn't really do much yesterday. So I think maybe it's taken a little consolidation, little break, and then this uptrend might get back into gear. But nothing really jumps out at me here.
Okay, sure looks like 186 is going to be a key area there for
Yeah.
potential resistance. Okay, Mark, look, great stuff yet again. Hopefully you have yourself a great weekend as we march even closer to Christmas. If you are able to uncover your wife's UFO picture, slack it to me. I'm extremely interested in that.
Okay, I will. I'll definitely.
Okay, absolutely amazing. Mark Putrino, everybody, our resident CMT. Be sure to check out his Substack. We're very appreciative of Mark and all of his help here on Friday. Mark, we'll see you next week.
Okay, everyone. Have a good weekend. See you next Friday.
All right, that is Mark Putrino. Really good stuff. Again, good suggestions here from the group as well on all of those stocks. I know we can never cover all of them because you folks give too much. Well, I shouldn't say too much, but give a lot there. But really good stuff for Mark. Now, Mark's departure leaves room for 13. Another very favorite person here on the show. 13, how you doing here this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. Noticed that a lot of cannabis stocks are moving up this morning. So guess what? I'm wearing green.
Hey, all right. That means we should expect wisdom here pretty soon as well. Mel, you're welcome. Shannon, good to see you again. And the rest of the chat here, thank you for being so polite to Mark. That's really awesome. All right. 13, did you want to take a look at any cannabis stocks to start off with here? Did you roll a blunt that you want to talk about, or do you want to just go straight to the movers?
We can go right to the movers. And to be honest, like it's pretty much just flooded with cannabis names. There's very little else on there that isn't in the cannabis sector. And even if they are on the movers list, they're down in the 20% range. So right now it's looking like a lot of these movers are just, all weed based. We have MSOS, which, I think that's the play if you want to try these weed names. But the one that's up the most is CBDMD. That's the ticker YCBD. This hit a high of 143. It's kind of backing off of that, but I don't know if this party's over or not. It seems like based on how the MACD looks, the momentum is starting to swing to the downside. So probably going to end up seeing some support from the VWAP, if not a move through it here pretty soon.
Okay, so real quick, just the overlying catalyst here that is going to be applicable to any of the weed names that 13 and I cover hereafter. U.S. President Donald Trump is anticipated to urge the U.S. government to loosen federal restrictions on marijuana in a major way, cutting oversight of the plant and its derivatives to the same level as ordinary prescription painkillers and other medicines. This was a Washington Post and Dan Diamond report. So there we go. That's what's affecting all of these. You should see a number of them. We also, by the way, had some news specific to Tilray. I covered that in the Stocks in Focus. Tilray, following the company's announcement of its Amped Live resin liquid diamond product line. I have no experience with that, so I can't tell you firsthand. We really need wisdom up there. Let's put the pot leaf in the sky and see if we can get him to come in here. But anyway, that's specific to Tilray. Otherwise, it's going to be the reclassification or rescheduling, I should say, of some of those cannabis names. So that's the impetus for all of these. 13 did a really good job mentioning some of the levels here already. I'll be very quick. Short interest on this name. Ticker YCBD, 8.16% of the float shorted with 1 day to cover. That comes on the average 100-day volume of 3.86 million shares. We are just shy of 100 million shares prior to the market even opening. Float on this name is 8.9 million. So what do you think?
So when it comes to the whole weed play here, this is something we've talked about earlier this year that could end up happening. We were talking about how there were congressional aides that were discussing with the media about how with this current congressional session, we might see this reschedule happen. So now we're getting that push to it. But I still think that we shouldn't get too excited because this is still just talk. It's nothing set in stone yet, and it requires an act of Congress. And I'm sure you guys understand how that can work out. So I think this is great. I think we're going to see some movement, some really good movement here with these weed names. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to just end up coming back in because until that we actually get some solid statements or solid evidence that this is actually happening and not just being talked about, I don't think that the weed stocks are really going to rally quite yet. I think we need to actually get some of the legislation moving first. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. We're probably going to they're going to make some great trading vehicles today, but I don't think this is going to be the time to hold on to these just yet.
Yeah, and this looks like you're not alone here. Jay Rice, pot names, terrible business, trade them, don't invest in them.
Not yet, anyway.
Zach here saying, I totally agree, 13. No, I think he means excitement. It's Stay Focused here says, Ryan, I wonder who was talking about weed and happy hour. Interesting. Stay focused. Stay focused is always staying focused and staying sharp, it seems. But I agree with you guys. I think that this is more for trading. You know, I've been telling you, I hold a little bit of CGC in case it makes this meteoric move here. It's such a small position that it's like really not that big of a deal. CGC is one of the names that's up here today. Not looking to take profit, want a little bit more of a move on that, if you will. Yeah. But good stuff here on YCBD. I'm going to move along to that. Did you have something else?
I just wanted to add one more thing about the whole marijuana thing. It really comes down to when these companies have better access to banking, and when, of course, the Schedule III is going to certainly help. I don't think that this rescheduling is going to necessarily be a massive boon for the legalization or decriminalization of marijuana just yet. It's a step in that direction.
Yeah.
But there are so many hurdles and things that still have to happen in order for these companies to even be attractive for long-term investment. And one of those big things is they need to be able to have broader access to banking.
X-Sniper here says, I really think this is a nothing burger. If they control it like opioids, it's going to be impossible to get. It's very, very clear that what they're doing here is, like 13 is outlining, this is a process. It's not just going to be a one foul swoop type thing. It's going to be a process that's going to have many things along the way. You've done a really good job of talking about how the banking side of this, as far as the stocks go, might actually be even more important than some of this other stuff that we're seeing back and forth. But whatever your folks' feelings are about the future in the news, the reality is that this news is causing these stocks to move here today. There is no debate. Period. End of story.
We're in financial markets, folks. We need to have financial access, and pot names don't have that broad financial access that a lot of these other companies enjoy right now.
Exactly. Izzy here saying, buy the rumor, sell the news on pot. I really do think that these are better trading vehicles now than investment vehicles, just kind of going back to something Jay had said about 5 minutes ago. All right, good stuff there. YCBD. The next one here is MSOX. This is the levered ETF. This is one of the safer ways to I guess, play the weed trade here. Having exposure to the ETF, probably less risky than having exposure to a single name there. But that's what's going on with this. 13, do you see anything on the chart here on MSOX that jumps out to you? I'm going to run through all of these different cannabis names and just kind of peek at the chart.
On the 5-minute chart, it's starting to look like it might be losing some steam here. I think that you're just going to want to keep an eye on that 65 EMA. If you look at the price action since the after hours, following the impulse move, we came down and got support around the $6 handle. That took us up to 706. Since that time, it came back down, also still got some support around that $6 area. And I think maybe just it didn't quite get all the way down there, but it was pretty close. We're rebounded off the VWAP, rolling back over now, and that VWAP is going to be the first area of support. But if it loses that, guess what's down at the $6 handle area, that 65 EMA. So those will be the next two support areas that I see. Beneath that, I think if it loses the $6 handle, you might have some support around 550.
Okay, good breakdown there on the chart. The next one here is going to be AKAN. This also in the whole cannabis theme here, which we've already kind of talked about. This one does have earnings projected for 11 days from now, so there might be some earnings here real soon. AKAN, though, this was a penny stock, went to dollar territory, have a little bit of cup action here. We didn't really get the total handle here, kind of went higher. Curious to know what you make of this one.
Move like that tends to take on the scallop pattern formation. That's where, like, we just blow, in a cup and handle, you would come up to the first resistance area where you were in the after hours. We would retreat from that. We blew through it. So this is a scallop. So we went higher all the way up to 130. Let me just pull this on here. And this is when we were trading. I think this was earlier this week. We were trading this one as well. It might have been last week, but this was on our radar earlier. Let's see here. It was on the December 4th into the 5th. We were looking at this last, and I think I would just kind of keep an eye on those levels from that when we were trading in that session, because that gave us a lot of price action that we can lean on for support and resistance. So we have 140 as the high of all that price action, and then it kind of just drifted lower. So looks to me like 140 is going to be one of the areas that is going to provide resistance. And wouldn't you know it, we've only got up to 132. So that seems to be holding up fairly well. We'll see if it can get through 140, but if it cannot, then I think we're going to want to look at 120 as. I'm sorry, we're already back down beneath it. We're already back down to beneath the 120 area, where I would think there would be support. That's now resistance. We've lost VWAP. This looks like it's just like all the other pot names that are starting to get weaker into the open. So if we lose this next area here around 110, I would say 65 EMA is going to show up once again to provide support before it loses a dollar.
Okay, good stuff there. 8K. And next on the list is Tilray. I know this is a favorite one amongst the group there, despite this thing not being great here. And actually, this did a reverse split. When was the last time this thing split? December 2nd, recently. So they did a 1-for-10 reverse. Maybe it trades a little bit better. Here's what the chart looks like. We got the big impulse move yesterday, pulled back a little bit. We actually went higher here today. It seems to be a common theme with some of the different stocks that's going on here. Quick look at some of these stats. Let's take a look at the short interest here real quick. What do we got? Yeah, this is going to not be adjusted. So since the split, we haven't got the receipt date. So I think that this is actually showing pre-split here. So I think we're probably at 9% or 9.5% of float shorted here. Days to cover still 2.42. There's some short interest in here, but I would say that this is not very significant. Float on Tilray is 115 million. On average, it trades 5.3 million. Today, it's traded 4.2 million. Maybe it trades better post the split. What do you think here, the chart formation, 13?
It looks like this one's beginning to weaken into the open as well. We'll see if that ends up happening, but I'd be keeping an eye on the 1145 to 1150 area. That was providing resistance in the after hours yesterday. It rejected that area twice. We went sideways in the pre-market, and then we just moved through that resistance area, and we're still above it, but we're coming back down to test it. So if we lose that 145, 150 area, and we start coming in back to VWAP, I think that's probably telling us that this is going to end up going lower. But we do have some pretty good sideways consolidation that can act as a demand zone, and that's from the pre-market price action. So that's going to be between about 1060 to 1105-ish. That area right in there also features the 65 EMA. So that's probably going to be a really good area for support if we do end up losing the VWAP.
Almost right in the middle of it, too. It's like the 65 EMA almost couldn't even be any better than that. Really good. Okay, let's take a break from weed.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what's going on.
A little bit of gummies in the coffee there. Catapult. This is actually some M&A here. So Catapult and the Aaron's Company and CCF Holdings combine in an all-stock transaction. Now, the reason that this is still in play here is because it's an all-stock transaction and the stock's going to continue to trade as ticker KPLT. So the information in here is in the press release. Let me see. There was something here that I wanted to read for you folks. Let's see if I can find it. Under the agreement, upon the close of the transaction, current Catapult stockholders will own 6% of the combined company on a fully diluted basis, and stakeholders of Aaron's and CCF Holdings will own the remainder. Aaron's and CCF Holdings will be subsidiaries of Catapult, which is expected to continue trading on the Nasdaq under ticker KPLT. So this is driving the stock higher by 40.5% here today. A quick peek at the short interest on this: 5.15% of the float is shorted with 1.88 days to cover. That comes on an average 100-day volume of 104,000 shares. Very, very light volume. Today, we're just shy of 10 million up here at 9.5 million. Float on this is 3.2 million. So what do you think, 13 KPLT? You think we got another trade? Oh, it looks like we got one impulse move here, a pullback to the 65 EMA, and then another ramp to and through the VWAP. So what do you think here, KPLT?
Well, this one making a nice move through VWAP and capturing some of these resistance levels here. The next one looks to be, I think we're getting through it right now. I'd say about 885. Looks like there's a seller in the way at 9 as well, but 885 seems to be the next area we need to see the price move through. And then you have 950 being the area above that has featured no closes, no candle closes above that. It's been providing some pretty stiff resistance, only seeing a few prints above it as high as 979. I'm using the highs from the after hours as to make a trend line that could give us something of a target to shoot for if this does end up having enough volume and momentum to take it up into the double digits. But that would be if we can get into the 10 past 979 and get into the 10 handle. Right now, I think I would need to see some better volume. I think we need to see some volume really expand up here, especially at 950, because there could just be another rejection like we were getting in the after hours yesterday if that doesn't happen, or maybe it ends up happening during the after we open here. But that's kind of what I'd be watching for right now. If we can get above that 950 resistance, because that seems to be like the next one that we're at. So we'll see what happens here. If it starts to turn around and come back in, then we're going to want to lean on those other levels I'd mentioned underneath it for support, as well as the VWAP.
Okay. Did you have anything else on the movers list that you wanted to talk about here? Because the rest of it is just kind of weed names like SNDL. I guess it's notable that Wheeler is on here. It's trying to trade up a little bit. It went crazy in the after hours. I shouldn't say it went crazy. It traded up in the after hours. Beat, which we've been trading all day. I don't know if you have an update here. Beat is higher here in the pre-market. And then there was one more in here. There was ACB. Where did it just go? Next door. NXDR here. This was a little bit higher. This basically looks flat. Volume looks like it dried out here. Planet Labs, maybe some continuation from the big move yesterday. So that's
I love this one. I traded Planet Labs yesterday. This one was fantastic. Don't know how much is left in the tank here, but this is now over 18. It was having a hard time getting up to that over that handle yesterday. So this is looking pretty good. I still think I'd be anticipating some selling out of the open, but if it manages to get its footing after that selling happens, then let's see where this goes. It might be it might set up a good trade later as well. One that I started picking, just nibbling yesterday. Maybe I should have bought more because of the theme that we've been talking about. I bought some YOU.
YOU. So you did buy just stock.
This is stock, just a little bit. I wanted to, start building a position if this is going to be what I think it's going to be, which could be massive. But this has had some really nice moves over the past couple of days, and this is all because this company is has announced that they got the contract from CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, to upgrade and manage Medicare.gov. and provide identity verification for everybody that uses it, and a whole bunch of other really interesting things. And I know that seemed like, well, wouldn't this be up more? Yes, it should be up more, but there was no amount disclosed as to how to the size of the contract. But get this, CMS has a budget for their IT and operations contracts in excess of $1 trillion. So it could be sizable. A sizable contract that this company received. So I think I like this one going forward. And it's already a profitable company. Does really well already. And this is just a massive, massive contract for them. So I think I really like ticker YOU.
Okay, good stuff there. I had mentioned that there was some definitely some positioning in out of the money calls on YOU into next year. We as we took a look at that. So
and G-Man, I'm right there with you. I was picking up Rocket Lab last month, and this thing has been absolutely awesome. This thing is just literally blasting off.
You want to talk about the Rocket Lab chart and what's going on there? I'll go ahead and put this on the screen. It's actually give me a sec to step away here real quick. 13.
So
BRB 1 second.
Okay, so the whole thought here with Rocket Lab is, everybody knows what SpaceX is and how important they are to the spaceflight sector, and it's getting a lot of it more attention now because they've been talking about an IPO, and the IPO amount that they're talking about is in excess of $1 trillion. That's giving a lift to a lot of these other space names that are either associated with SpaceX or competing with SpaceX, and Rocket Lab is going to be one of those competitors. Now, I understand that they don't have a rocket yet that is necessarily competitive with SpaceX's Falcon 9 rockets. They have been working on one. They've been trying to get that. It's maiden flight this year. Don't think that's going to happen. It's probably going to end up being in 2026. But that rocket, called the Neutron rocket, is expected to launch and start flying commercially as early as next year. And when that happens, they will be a larger competitor to SpaceX's Falcon 9 rockets. The other thing that I like about Rocket Lab is they've got a lot of they're getting funding from the U.S. government because they have a dedicated launch site in Virginia for the War Department. They typically launch all their commercial launches from New Zealand, where their company site is. But the contracts that they have with the U.S. government, I think, also helps give them kind of a floor. They're not quite profitable yet, but just like SpaceX, they're working towards profitability, and it might be like a year or two before they start getting close to being profitable. They're on their way. I really like this company, and I think it's since you can't buy SpaceX shares on the open market quite yet, this is probably the next best thing.
Question here from Johnny. 13, I heard talk of Sam Altman wanting to buy into Rocket Lab to help provide a competitor to SpaceX. What do you think about that? Well, Altman and Elon Musk, we're going to have a battle for years to come, it sounds like.
That sounds great to me, because that's more money going to Rocket Lab, and that puts them like on a bit of a more of a fast track to profitability, especially if they're I don't know, I haven't read that what he wants to do, and as far as taking a stake or he's buying open shares, or he just wants to buy the debt or whatever. I don't know what his positioning is in this, but that's great news for shareholders of Rocket Lab and everybody that likes Rocket Lab, because I think this still has some more upside to go. Okay.
Real good stuff here. I got to be honest, I definitely would want this thing to pull back before taking another stab at it. Just an absolute
and it very
monster
well
run here. So.
I think it really does need to come back in, but this thing has extended much higher before. If you look at the history of the RSI, you can see that this has extended well into the 80s before there's been a meaningful pullback. Just look at the last times we had massive runs like this. When there's one from November of 2024, the last one was actually from July. So we will get some pullbacks here, and they'll go sideways for a time, most likely. But this may still have a little bit more room to run up before we get that pullback. But I am expecting one to happen.
And Jay here mentioning Velo. This is interesting because this was actually a mover from yesterday. Chart because of this doesn't look all that great here. Here's the recent move that Velo made. Jay here saying, what do you guys think? Is this a space play? Remember, we had news here that the company said it's 3D printing parts for SpaceX Raptor engines and working on multiple programs for Anduril. So 13, I don't know. Maybe we didn't talk about this officially, but the way that I would classify this is that indeed this is a space play, but this is more of a thing behind the thing space play, as they're making components for some of these companies that have different space exposure like SpaceX and Anduril. What do you think about that?
So this one I think is probably in a really good spot too, because one of the things that I think is going to, and there's no guarantee that this is what's going to send it, but I think one of the things that might very well send this stock higher is a successful flight test of SpaceX's next Starship launch, which is supposed to be, I think it's number 12. This one is going to feature the Block 3 version of the Starship, which is also going to have the new Raptor 3 engines that Velo 3D has been 3D printing components for. So the thought is that if this flight test is successful, all the engines work just as they are intended to, and there's no problems, and the whole test is successful. This could be one of the names that really goes, because that's just going to mean more business for them, and they are going to get more business because these Starships are getting they're getting built in mass and rapidly. So I think Velo 3D is going to continue to be busy, and I think something like a successful flight test would be really good for the stock.
Okay, there you go, Jay. And I think that, maybe I'm going to be wrong on this, but I got to think that given some of the catalyst here, I know that this is like a huge up move, and I'm not saying go buy it right now or anything like that, but I actually think this might have some staying power compared to some of the other movers that we've traded here. I know we introduced this during the mover segment, but there seems to be something else going on here with this one. So
and we need to see revenue growth continue to expand with this one. This does still lose money. So there's always that too, and it may need to raise capital as well, because I don't know how long this cash burn can last with them. They according to their balance sheet, they've only got like a quarter's worth of cash left. So I don't know what happens there. There could be some back and forth, but at the same time, if we get a successful Flight 12 launch and everything works out, I think that could be a catalyst for upside in this thing.
Okay, and Jay Rice, thank you for the reminder. No, Izzy, I was having a great morning. Now you're telling me that Scooble's talking to the Dodgers? Damn it, Izzy. Look, Izzy, I'm going to need you to really only break good news on here going forward. I'm just kidding, of course, but damn, I actually did not see that, and that is extremely, extremely disappointing. Producer saying low-key saw that coming. Producer, look, you're a Tigers fan. I'm a Cubs fan. I might be equally as pissed about this. Equally as pissed about this as you are. I understand that you might be losing one of your. Okay, Izzy, I got distracted enough there. Anyway, let's get back down to brass tacks here, because that's bad news, to be very clear. But Jay, I've got some good news here. Jay, I appreciate the reminder. Jay here saying, Ryan, you get my DM yesterday. Maybe worthwhile posting in chat. Yeah, actually, I responded to the DM yesterday. Here's the tweet that Jay is talking about. Here's a list of stocks with an infographic on the space economy. 13, you might want this too. I'll go ahead and tweet this to you, or tweet it to you, text it to you when we get off the show here. The link to this tweet here is in the chat. The hat tip and the citing is on here, so we should be good there. But this is a list of all of those different stocks and what other, let's call them subsets, that some of these companies fit into to the space theme. So, Jay, I appreciate you sharing this with me. Thank you for the reminder. Here you go, distributed to the group.
There were a couple of questions here regarding ASTS and this, so I'll just address those real quick. One of them was, let me see here. It was from Joseph Schmo, I believe. You think Rocket Lab can compete with SpaceX, but ASTS will not be able to ultimately? It's two different kinds of companies. For one, Rocket Lab actually has the rockets and is launching satellites and hardware into space. ASTS is just a satellite company, and I still have a lot of concerns about ASTS and whether or not they're going to be able to deliver in the long run what they intend to do. We've also had some folks in our happy hour who have met with some folks from ASTS because they're in business together, and they don't like it either. They think they're just mostly a marketing ploy. They're not going to be able to do all the things that is expected of them. It's in terms of, like, this is supposed to be for more rural coverage where there aren't cell towers, but the connectivity and the data rate of ASTS's satellites is so low. It's more of like just it's not really going to deliver the high-speed internet or the clear phone calls that apparently have been promised. That's something that Starlink might end up being able to do, but both companies are still a ways away from that. The other question was, let's see here. It was regarding Rocket Lab as well. Can't seem to find it, but Rocket Lab and SpaceX, yes, they will be competing against each other for launches, and I think that ASTS might benefit from Rocket Lab once they have their Neutron rocket up and running, because they might Rocket Lab might offer a cheaper alternative to SpaceX. But we'll see if that ends up happening. That would be the case where I could see Rocket Lab benefit ASTS in terms of cost savings for ASTS. Otherwise, I'm not as strong and bullish on ASTS as I am on SpaceX and Rocket Lab.
Okay, really good stuff here. Let me, Shannon, I'm going to go ahead and tweet this on my main account right now, directly from what Jay gave me. Let me actually quote the retweet, and then we're going to give the hat tip to Jay. And there you go. Tweeted that out, Shannon. You should be able to grab that right from my Twitter. By the way, I never really mentioned this because, let's see, hide message. I never really mentioned this because it's on screen here. But if you're ever interested, some of the things that we talk about here, I do tweet about or retweet. My handle on X is @rfaloona. And if you're mad that I'm still calling it a tweet, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to keep doing it. That's how it is. So
I like this. I like this list a lot. I'd say that there are a couple names on here that I don't see that I think should be on here, but this is a great list, and it's great that they've narrowed it down to what the different parts, the different components are, like networks, comms, materials. Like where's Velo on here? Velo should be on here.
I mean that might also be a
That's a
recent
great list.
It's a good list. It's likely going to expand, but that's a good starting off point there.
And here we go.
Okay, we're open. Let's go. Happy Friday, everybody. Let's get it done.
All right, so let's look at these cannabis names and see what strength or weakness they're giving us here. It looks like some of them were starting to roll over. Tilray starting to push up. That's over 12. CBD, that was going lower into the open. It seems to be rebounding, but it's got to get back above 125 if we're going to see some more upside.
Lululemon right there out of the gate. Sorry, that was so fast, couldn't even mention it. Scalped it right there, 207 to 209 right out of the gate. So 1 for 1 on Lulu. I want to see where this settles here. Now that we're actually breaking to the upside, I want to know if we end up getting a back test. Remember, this is one. So, God, we are right there. We are right there. Let me re-add the lines that I was talking about. Let's go ahead and add this one right in here, and then this one right here. Here we go. So Lulu's first move to the top end of the range, and what do you know? Finding some resistance there. Let's see what happens going forward.
Broadcom lower out of the gate here. This is, I think we were expecting this with how much it ran up into the print. It was nice to see some upward price action after the print, but it gave it all back and then some, and we are going lower. So this is more or less what I was kind of expecting with Broadcom. I'm still in this. I'm going to be in this for a while, but this pullback I think was necessary because this has been on a massive run.
Okay, if you were not in this and you're looking for maybe more of a pullback here, I've got the same type of thing marked off on Broadcom as I do on Lululemon. Let's see if we back test 378.64, 378.5-ish there. If we cannot re-enter that range, perhaps we go lower a little bit here on Broadcom, so we'll watch that setup as well. Lulu continuing higher here, 212 after its break of the 210 upside level that we just took a look at. Putrino also had a very similar level to that. So we all seem to be looking at the same thing. Good start to the day right there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Oh, wow, look at this. Look at you. YOU, we going.
Nice job on that one.
I love it.
Nice job on that one, 13. I actually didn't I wanted to do the options because I saw that kind of weird stuff, if you will, happening there in February, but I ended up not getting filled. And by the way, a couple of you corrected me earlier when I was giving you the Einstein quote about television. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. You guys were correct. The television was invented during his lifetime. It was the internet and email.
Clear Secure got upgrades from JP Morgan and Mizuho. JP Morgan thinks it's worth $42. They upgraded to overweight. Mizuho gave a positive report for Clear Secure. They also believe it's worth $42. So here we go. We're looking for 40 right now. KPLT halted to the downside. And it looks like Tilray also came back the upside. So is ACAN. MSOX is trying to find support from the 65 EMA. YCBD still trying to push up and keep its head above the VWAP water.
Look at Lulu. So Lulu went right to that resistance area that we talked about, backed off a little bit here. We'll see where it goes next. It's also worth noting that it left from the 65 EMA there, just to kind of keep that in mind. Voodoo, good to see you here, Voodoo. Mentioning MITK, which was another pretty decent trade. We talked about this in happy hour. MITK got an island forming on the daily. So we'll talk about some of these island trades. Remember, the big thing about the island for me is that I don't want it to encroach on previous price action to the left, which MITK is doing. So this trade is going to end up behaving a little bit differently. Nonetheless, this was something that we talked about yesterday. Shares are trading higher after the company reported better than expected Q4 financial results and issued full year 26 sales guidance above estimates. This is trading into a resistance area. Perhaps if it pops, we probably go to what, 14? Yeah, maybe closer to 14 here. MITK, not quite the same setup as the floating island that we talked about on GE Vernova. That's going to be ticker GEV. By the way, this one's coming back in here, so we're going to watch this. We get a substantial break here beneath 680. I might exit and wait for it to reset. We'll see how it ends up trading here. GEV coming back in towards the bottom of its candle on its island.
Cyril, it puts a smile on my face. Well done on your Tilray calls. Looks like EKS. You're also trying to take a trade with YOU. That's great. I'm loving this price action with YOU right now.
Yeah, this is a really good move. I don't want to chase this up move here, 13.
No.
I definitely feel like I missed this a tad.
Looks like YCBD is trying to push back up. Careful around 135. That's been a bit of a resistance area in the pre-market. Just keep that in mind if you're going to trade this one. Looks like some of the names are trying to find some footing. Tilray trying to push back up towards 12. Planet Labs gave up, it gave up 18 briefly and it recaptured VWAP. This is probably going to go back and forth a little bit and maybe even come back in. It had a really nice day yesterday and it's opening higher, so it might end up filling the gap a little bit here.
Okay, you guys are mentioning Tesla here. Tesla, a whole bunch of call sweeps on the back of this move right up through 450 here today. 455. Boy, oh boy, what a strong move here. I'm continuing to see more call sweeps. These are ones that expire today, so it looks like there's a lot of zero DTE trading here on Tesla as that makes a huge rip higher. Netflix also making a move higher here. Some of those larger stocks. Let's take a look here at NFLX and make sure I get the ticker right. Here's your Netflix move. This straight up out of the gate as well. Remember, we were kind of talking about, do we buy this here? I know there's kind of this overhang with the Warner Brothers Discovery thing and all of that. Netflix here straight up out of the gate here today.
I think resistance is a big resistance area is going to be at 100 once you clear the current one that it's trying to get over. I think that ends at about 97.5. But 100, if you let me draw a horizontal line and look to the left back at the beginning of the year, you'll see how that's been the support and resistance area. I think it also could effectively be that same thing if it gets back up to 100 in short order.
Okay. We'll see what Netflix does here. Lulu looks like this is some back and forth here. Hasn't necessarily picked a direction. Back up towards the top end of that range, but looks like it's struggling to get through it. We'll take a look here at Lulu. All out. Now, no active short-term trades here at this time. Just one on Lulu out of the gate.
Yeah, G-Man, it might be still trying to push higher. I like I said, I could still see this going just a little bit higher. I think my prices would be about $66 to $67 before we really start to see that resistance kick in. So it might be able to push a little bit higher. But even here, I'd be fine with it coming back in because it has been on a really, really great run since the middle of November. Just looking at off the lows here, we're already up 70% since that low down there. So great movement here. But I agree with you. This is going to have to come back in, but it still has. It looks like it still could have the ability to push just a tiny bit higher first.
13, you're absolutely going to love this. The weed signal in the sky worked. Here's wisdom. He's back. He's out here trying to razz me about Lulu, but that won't work. I came in at the right time. Indeed, we put the pot leaf signal in the sky, wisdom, just a few minutes ago. Your response time rivals that of Batman's response time. So well done here. Got to ask you, what do you think about the news affecting the cannabis industry here today?
G-Man, that's a great level. I agree with that one. And it might not get up there, but that's where I would be looking at too, kind of like at the very top end.
Rivian also trading higher here out of the gate. I guess that's notable considering Tesla made the exact same move out of the gate. The trade desk, after getting absolutely thoroughly stomped out yesterday, this trying to rebound a little bit here today.
This mover from yesterday is looking like it's trying to come back. It was a big halter to the downside, ticker MIGI. This had a nice move in the afternoon that took it up to 1577. Remember, this one was under $10
yes,
for most of the morning when we were trading this. This thing came all the way down, found support at the end of the day around 486. Now it's turning back up, and it's halted to the upside right now. So maybe this gets another push up through the 200 EMA on the 5-minute and possibly finds resistance around 8 to 825. I think that's kind of where I would be looking. If this does have some more upside, I think 8 to 825 might be the big resistance area it has trouble with.
Okay. Cannabis will have no issues. It's a different form of the THCA. That's per wisdom. We'll call him our cannabis expert here on the show.
Thanks, Cannabert.
Hannah okay.
Oh, cool. NEM is up. I picked some of that up. It's like, it must have been October when I got some of this. I just wanted to have some of it. Wow,
Beat.
nice move.
Sorry for interrupting. Beat challenging yesterday's intraday highs. Maybe it looks like this traded higher out of the gate. No position here for me on Beat. You know what else I'm going to do, 13? I am going to extend this trend line out a little bit because the trend lines have. Oh, come on, lagginess of chart. You gotta come on. Let me. All I tried to do. There we go. Here we go. So we're extending the trend line. Look at that, 13. Look at that.
I love that.
I love it too.
That's great.
I love when the drawings tell us what to do. It just makes trading easier. Dara, excuse me, mentioning Zedge here, ZEDG, ticker ZDGE. Zedge shares trading higher after the company reported better than expected earnings. This thing ripping here. So was closed at about 243 yesterday, just tested 4.
Isn't this the ringtone?
Yeah,
app?
that's what I thought too. The ringtone app, which I've actually used. Digital marketplace and competitive games are centered on content that people use for self-expression. It includes the Zedge app, a freemium digital content marketplace offering mobile wallpapers, video wallpapers, ringtones, and notification sounds. I've actually used this product before.
I have, yeah. Long time ago.
I've had my phone on vibrate for so many years, I can't even remember what my ringtone is.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, look, this is it seems like this has got a low enough float to where it's just going to give you some outsized moves. Great. I mean, great that they've reported positive earnings. I think that might be one of the first times they've done it. Now it looks like they did it earlier this year too, but they go back and forth between profitability and are just like on the verge of seeing a positive net income or not. I don't know what to make of this one. I have a hard time with the phone internal decorating, I guess I would call it. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot for you on this one. Let me see if I can give you some technicals because I just don't know what to make of this.
I'll tell you what, this is actually trading on really impressive volume, and it's still up 78%. I mean, this continues to move to the highs here.
Okay, so we're let's see. So we're kind of at we're kind of at a top end here of price action. If I'm looking over the course of this entire year, this has been up here several times before. Looks like it could see some pretty tough resistance around 465. If we get up there, there's a seller in the way right now at 420. And the high that we had so far this year was 516. So we could even probably draw a trend line from these highs. And if we do that, if we look at the daily chart and draw a trend line from the February high through the July high, that kind of gives us a little bit of a target to shoot for, which would take the price up to about 480. So maybe that could be the high end of the price action you see today in Zedge, 480. Like I said, I don't know anything, or I don't know what to make of this company right now. I'm not really big into the ringtone or decorating the internals of your phones kind of app, but if this has the momentum, I'd be looking at 480.
I mean, the app makes it easy, but can't you just do this on your own if you were so inclined? I feel like you could just download any file and do it yourself.
Download an MP3 or any kind of audio file and just set it as your ringtone. Yeah.
Okay, TSLL actually might make a pretty good trader here with Tesla running. This thing is absolutely ripping right now. TSLT is the other one, right? TSL. What's the other one? What's the other levered TSLS? Excuse me. That's your bearish one. That's your bearish one. Yep.
All right, so Zedge up to 435. Let's look at some of these other ones. Tilray, well, what do you know? This is losing the 65 EMA, fell all the way through with all that demand zone. Marijuana stocks kind of sinking. I think we kind of expected this would happen. Now they might find some support and try to recover, but we'll see what ends up happening. This is kind of what we were looking at potentially happening here with these cannabis names.
Yep. Hopefully nobody chased those names. Here's CGC. Here's the one I'm holding. This also pulling back, so doing the same thing as the other stocks there. Kenneth says weed stocks are bunk.
And until we like all the things we were talking about in the pre-market, until all that starts happening, I kind of agree. They're just not going to have continued upside.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've seen this. We've seen this story before.
Yep.
Michael mentioning VOR here. This is Vor Biopharma. Nice power move out of the open here. Notably took us through yesterday's intraday high. This now in a 13 handle. Not in this one, but this was a good mention, Michael.
It's been a really good week, and I haven't traded anything, and it just might be one of those things where I just sit on my hands. I just haven't really looked at anything or seen anything that I just want to take a trade in. I don't want to take a trade in any of these weed stocks.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's why I was kind of targeting Lulu here. By the way, GE Vernova, that did dip down to that 680 area and so far has bounced here. So something else to consider. Weed stocks coming off their high. I see what you did there, Johnny. I see what you did there, Johnny. Palo Alto, that's actually higher here today. I did see earlier there was a Citron, and I actually had this as part of the news, but we just didn't have enough time to get to it. Sentinel-1 here. This was actually a Citron play, right? On Thursday, in a post on X, Citron made a bullish call on the California-based cybersecurity company Sentinel-1, or ticker S, while highlighting its role in identifying 2 Chinese state hackers involved in the massive Salt Typhoon breach. This is the same playbook that put CrowdStrike on the map, says Citron. So getting a long call there on S. This actually not responding. Palo Alto strong out of the gate here.
I don't know about this JZXN. Call me skeptical, but when you go from when you expand a private placement from 12 million to 1 billion, I need to see some more information. This is a memorandum of understanding, so this is good luck. I'll say that. Good luck.
Okay.
This might be good. I have concerns. It looks like this is going through all the motions of compliance. They just did a reverse split, 1 for 40 earlier this month. Going from and then they're raising capital now. It's private placement, so there's no share dilution happening there. But I'm really wanting to know how you go from 12 million to 1 billion. I would need to see more information.
Yeah, well, when you can make up whatever you want, you can do a lot of really cool things, it seems. Real quick here, 3D, great to see you here, 3D. Mentioning Ceres, which I believe is ticker CERS.
Did you say tickle?
I think I accidentally did. I think I accidentally did, and I apologize for that.
That's great.
Couple of things to take a look at here. Here's your Ceres chart on the 5-minute. The move here today, this is a nice move right out of the gate here. This took us right to the pre-market high from Friday, December 5th. 3D given some news here. Let me check the actual news feed. Ceres to partner with Blood Centers of America. This is from Wednesday this week. To partner with Blood Centers of America to drive expanded access to pathogen reduction technology for intercept fibroigin complex across blood center membership. Okay, so I am not smart enough to know what all of that means. The stock has actually performed quite well since we got this piece of news. Actually traded up multiple times. Looks like it's continuing here. And I think you're at a possible break spot here, 225-ish. That's Ceres, ticker CERS. Not on the scanner here. Good mention, 3D.
Revenue growth is looking pretty good. It's been fairly consistent over the past couple of years. It looks like they're about to turn a profit. Seems like they're financially doing pretty well. I guess one of the things I'd be concerned about is what's going on with this insider selling that was happening last month. Not really a whole huge amount. It probably was like you said before. There's going to be a number of reasons to sell. There's only one reason to buy, and they could have had a pretty good reason to sell. Like close to $100,000 or $800,000 worth of stock. But this company had earnings last month, and it seems like they had a really good guidance raise. So or at least they tried to raise it. Didn't meet expectations, but they rose. Anyway, looks like it could be good. All right, let's see what's happening with these marijuana names. Looks like they're trying to reverse on us. Go higher. Planet Labs recovering. We have a current high, session high of 1848. And it also looks like Wow U is also pushing higher. 4068 is current high. Rocket Lab also putting in new highs.
All right. Bernhard. By the way, I want to mention a comment. Bernhard here, 20,000 hours of flying, and he's never seen a UFO. So just to kind of go back to our UFO discussion, Bernhard, I'm sorry I didn't mention that when you had said that earlier there. But nonetheless, out of YCBD on a little scalp trade there, 122,
right.
We'll give you a register ring for that. No doubt about it.
Don't forget the medical cannabis stocks. THC has been shown to be anti-cancer. And one of the things that's going to really help open the doors for further research into that is going to be the rescheduling. So that's going to actually be the biggest beneficiary of this rescheduling, is that it's going to pave the way for expanded research. It's not going to immediately decriminalize. It's not going to immediately make it legal, but it is going to make cannabis more accessible to broader research.
Yeah, and really good mention here, Graf. So GEV is breaking the island here. I'll say this. So first of all, position here was stock, not option, so it's not going to get obliterated. Still like the premise here for GEV long term. Probably going to give this a little bit of leeway here today. I understand that we broke the island here. The big thing is that I do not want to have this close beneath that. If it looks like we're going to close beneath that at the end of the day, I'll probably skedaddle. But for the rest of the day here, I'm going to try and be patient. If I have to hold this a little bit longer, I will. Just a big time pullback. I'll get out of the way on that one. This is a good mention, though, Graf. We've been talking about the anatomy of this trade here, and looks like that's what we're getting here.
Yeah, and this isn't a trade for me. This is a longer term hold.
Right,
I'm going to be in this for a while, so this can pull back all at once. I think we're going to end up going higher in the future.
Yeah, indeed. Good morning, Amanda. Sorry I've been sleeping in so much. Yo, you never have to apologize for sleeping here. Swim season is exhausting. Polar Club? I mean, it's freezing out there. Ryan, those GEV options are crap anyway. Yo, they're expensive and they're like spread like $4. Like it's just, I just decided I'm going to go with stock here. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just use risk management to kind of keep you in there or out of there. Whatever it is. But GE Vernova here. Remember, 680 is really that level. Look at this candle. Look at this candle. Looks like they're trying to hold on to it. We'll see. We'll see if this works. More Tesla flow here, both on the call and put side. A lot of these are for today. So it looks like there's some short-term trading. Tesla currently on its next leg higher. And,
you know, there's GEV is just one of the companies that I like for the turbine side of the whole, America expansion, energy build out, and data center build out. SIEGY. That's the other one that I also picked up, and that's still doing well. So even if GEV is having a bad day, this one's still doing good. It's I think I'm already up 10% since I picked this one up in November as well. So I think this play is going to be just fine. And I have a long-term time horizon on it. So if it pulls back, okay, buying opportunity. Ooh, YCBD halted down, and this is why I didn't want to play these. So if you manage to get some trades in these, well done, folks. Yeah, this went right down to the, get ready for it, 65
EMA. All right, awesome. I had to get it in there. I had to get in there. Playing that game, had to do it.
BE dumping, says Graph. That's Bloom Energy. This is the
I haven't looked at that one in a bit here.
Yeah, this is the hydrogen. This is the fuel cell battery play, and they had a contract or something with the data centers, but it's just for backup systems. I think the real big play for data centers is going to be on-site power generation, and that's where I like the turbines. This one also kind of looking like it's got a bearish pattern forming. It kind of looks like a head and shoulders, if you ask me. So this looking not great. I would say that your support's going to be around 97 right now, and if you lose that, I mean, this is probably going to end up going under 80 at some point. You have support at around 85. That would be the last area of support before you lose 80, in my opinion. I think this is going down. And it's just looking at the technicals, I think this is headed south. And when you have 126 forward PE ratio, it kind of makes sense.
Tilray may be bouncing off of the 65 EMA off that pullback. That's Tilray, ticker TLRY.
Alpha, GEV is not just part of the AI trades. There's a lot of expansion globally for energy, like electrical power generation. That's where GEV is going to be better, way better than BE.
Tracy, you've probably answered this before, but what time frame are you using that 65 EMA call on? So I use the 65 EMA on the charts that I predominantly keep on intraday. So the chart that I use this the most on, that I would, I guess, shout things out to the chat here the most on, is in fact the 5-minute chart. But it's also worth noting that I absolutely also use the 15-minute chart and the 1-minute chart as well. Most of the calls, though, that you hear from the show are likely coming from the 5-minute chart. Man, excuse me.
Yep. 5-minute chart is what we're usually using. You also look at dailies, and the 65 EMA works across pretty much every time frame.
Yeah.
It looks like we're getting a little bit of an attempt to lift these cannabis names up, but I still think they look like they're just getting ready to go lower. All right, getting a little bit more of a lift higher with Rocket Lab. Got up to 65.13. Getting pretty close to that area where I think we're going to start to see some downward, some sellers step in and push this thing down. G-Man was looking at, I think his level was 67.55. I don't think that's out of the question.
Which ticker is this? I'm sorry.
Rocket Lab.
Rocket Lab, RKLB. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome, Tracy.
ACAN, what's going on? Yeah, that's back up to the VWAP. This might actually be trying to turn around here. Got some good support from the VWAP. If it can, I'm sorry, from the 65 EMA. If it can recapture 115, I think that's a start. I think the bigger level we want to see it trade above is 120. Let's see what happens at 115 first, though.
Oh, what happened here? There we go. All right. So ACAN was what you were looking at. It looks like some of these are trying to trade higher. CGC actually looks the strongest. I still think the safest is probably MSOS. I guess MSOX you could use as well. Apple buy zone 278. Good luck if you catch it. All right, Tenzin. So you like 278. That already happened here once on the Apple pullback, but you like that to go higher. It looks like okay.
I'm looking at Bitcoin because Ryan Summerall was asking about it. Take a look at BTC. He thinks that this is going to, or he says it looks like it's about to go. I'm just kind of, let me get to a larger time frame here.
God, you, by the way, still at the highs, 13. What a monster call that was. Really good timing on that, too. Now I'm sad I didn't get filled. I was actually looking at the 40s.
I was so excited when I saw that news, and the stock had not run a whole bunch. As a matter of fact, it did have some movement off it, but it wasn't explosive because there was no figure attached to that contract. So that's when I started looking into this a little bit more. And I already liked you for that whole government shutdown and TSA lines backing up.
Yeah,
that was already a great move, a great trade. But now that they've got this contract that could be worth a whole ton of money, maybe their entire market cap. I'm really wanting to see what this contract valuation is because, like I said, CMS, CMS, they have a very, very large IT budget. So I'm really interested to see what these figures are going to be, and I think it's going to be substantial.
Man, Broadcom here. We had the range identified on the chart. I did not take this trade, unfortunately. It looks like we broke the bottom of that. We did, in fact, backtest the line. Didn't quite get there, but backtested it. could not get back into the range, and it sure looks like lower we go here. So this trade setup already yielding about 7 points. I didn't take this. I was on Lulu out of the gate, but fairly decent move here for Broadcom. What downside level did you have for Broadcom? I can't remember. You might have had it in your notes there. I just can't place it.
Let me, I'll get to Broadcom in just a second. I just want to touch on Bitcoin real quick. Just
Sure.
we were being asked
Oh,
about
yeah.
it.
Let me go to the, I'll give you the visual aid for it. Sorry, 30. You did mention
That's okay.
that.
I think for me at this stage right now, I'm a little concerned about what's going to happen between 95 and 100,000. The more I look to the left, the more I see some heavier consolidation. And I think that's going to play a part in the price action here. You also have the 65 EMA that's now trading, or that's now underneath the $100,000 level. And I think that could provide some significant report if the price ends up getting up there. It's just this whole area between that area, like 95,000 to 100,000. That's got a lot of consolidation. I think that could end up being a supply zone. And I don't like the way this, the chart formation is on the daily. I don't like the way it looks either. It looks like this is putting in a bear flag. So I think I would just say, let's see what happens if this does end up going higher into that range I mentioned. I think around 97 to 97,500, you might run into some pretty tough resistance. To me, I'm not really enthusiastic about the way this Bitcoin chart looks.
Okay.
All right, now let's look at Broadcom. I think I may have ended up texting you about that level. I think I did, because it was it was like selling off after we had gone off of a happy hour.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you know what? You did here. 360 is where it can find its footing. There it is. There it is. Good call. Hey, thank you.
So yeah, so 360. That's where I like the support for Broadcom. There's a bit of a demand zone down there. And this is, this move is fine. I think this thing really did need to cool off. It's been on an absolute tear for months with some pullbacks, but I think this was just the latest one it needed because it was getting a little bit extended there. Still think Broadcom goes higher.
Okay, it's also worth noting that 362 is your 50-day moving average. So 13, let's just use your hypothetical example here. Let's say we pull back to 360 on Broadcom and hold that and then quickly recapture 362. Giddy up, that's a long trigger for me.
Okay.
Short-term swing trade, long trigger on a break, on a hold of 360 and then a recapture of 362.
I think a lot of these tech names, they just really need to, have a little bit of a cooling off period, and then they can resume their upside. I think they're still going to be great over the next couple of years. I think some of these the earnings growth is going to be in the double digits over the next 2 years for a lot of these names. I'm still bullish on them, but they do need pullbacks. This is healthy. SNDK is a direct play on Abago getting smoked.
TSM did a similar move on a good report.
Which report? I could take a look at the price action and maybe infer as to why that is. Is it the most recent one you're referring to? Because that would be from October. Let's see what happened in October. That was when it was hitting all-time highs. So it traded up into that print, and just like Broadcom, it traded up into its print, and now it's kind of weakening. I think this is something we've talked about several times about how trading price of a stock trading up into the earnings print. More times than not, we've seen this be profit taking.
Yeah, we see that really. I mean, I don't want to say be responsible, but perhaps it is responsible for a move back down. Lulu, by the way, tried to build above 210 to go higher. We actually lost 210. I don't think it's out of the question that we move to the back end of the pre-market range. Here's the TSM chart as we continue to move lower, taking out yesterday's intraday lows, now sub 300.
And we still, it looks like it's a big move down, but if you look at a daily chart, we haven't even hit some of these, moving averages yet. It's coming off the all-time high from December 10th, Wednesday, and we're coming down to a demand zone. And I kind of like the 294, 295 area. maybe even down to
By the
90.
way, continuing to go higher, 41.64. That stock is running away from a potential entry. 13, you did it. Jeremy here saying sold CGC to free up some cash. Will rebuy in a few days under 120. Really quickly, Jeremy,
Nice.
I think that is the right way to do this. I think what you're doing is the right thing to do here. I think you're going to have multiple opportunities at this name. If you get this in profit, taking some off and just kind of flipping it back and forth, I think you got time for that. If you do have a long-term view on that, I'd encourage you to maybe hold just a tad in case something crazy and unforeseen happens. But otherwise, I like this strategy here. I think if I probably got 180-ish, I might do the same thing that you're doing. I only have 600 shares of a stock that's $1.40. So we're not even really talking about a lot of money right here. But I'd probably do something similar to you. And I think that's a really good move there.
I mean, Lulu, we kind of had an idea that this would, potentially be good with the way it was turning around and starting to recover. We Happy Hour was calling this for it to drop, and we were pretty much on this for it to start rising again because it was turning around. And then they also had a lot of other news that was great to add on to it. Like they had a good guidance forecast, I believe, their buyback program, the change of the CEO, which that's actually going to. So how that's working is they're still looking for a CEO. They don't have a replacement yet, but they have a plan for the current one to step down from the position at the end of January. And then by the end of March, he's going to be completely out of the company because he'll be a strategic advisor from that interim period from January to the end of March.
Yeah, the CTO and the CCO are co-CEOs in the interim while they find that replacement. Also worth noting here, Lulu on this pullback traded down to the 65 EMA and so far has held it as support here. I would rather play this for a bounce play if it looked like it was going to bounce off the bottom end of the range down there at 203-ish. But we didn't get there yet. This did lose the VWAP on this move down. So far, 65 EMA supporting it. That's on the 5-minute, by the way, just going back to our earlier question.
All right, looking around here, seeing if there's anything that's interesting. It looks like a lot of stuff is kind of pulling back a bit. Names that have already pulled back, they're starting to get a lift. So seeing some upward price action a little bit after selling in Tilray and basically the marijuana names. I don't know if they're going to end up recovering, but they're bouncing. Looks like we are getting some pullback here from Rocket Lab after hitting that 65.18. Maybe now it's the time where it starts to come back in, just a little bit shy of the targets G-Man and I were looking for. Beat went back down to the 65 EMA, got some support. Now it's trying to recapture the VWAP. Got some large sellers in the way at 270 and 280.
Tesla pulling back, looks like 463 is what stopped it there. Alpha Trade mentioning Rivian, which also made a move, just ripped higher right out of the open here on Rivian. So this also slowing down here. Looks like stopped it right at about 19. Tyler, 0 for 2 today. I'm done walking away. Try again Monday. Tyler, I think that's good discipline. Yeah. Keep the losses small. Someone was mentioning this earlier. You can't really appreciate the winners without the losers. Reminds me of the old Vanilla Sky quote. You cannot appreciate the sweet, just isn't it? Without the bitter, the sweet just isn't as sweet. Took me a sec to get it out there. RYM, this is our Halt Fest du jour. Oh my God. RYM Rhythm. What this thing, good Lord. So third halt here. This one to the upside, 40.70. What a gap in there. This thing moved from 20. This is already a double. Market is selling here. You're right about that. S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both at lows here. They rolled over. The Dow is still holding on to green, but barely.
I'm just looking at Rivian and trying to process some thoughts. I think you sell into this move. That's just my opinion. Okay. Take it or leave it. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you say I'm wrong or it's a bad idea, but I think I'd be selling into this move. This company just pisses cash. And I don't think that, this announcement that they're entering autonomous driving with its new AI chip is going to change the fact that they lose so much money. I just can't with Rivian. That's just my opinion.
I'm with you there. And I'll tell you something. I don't necessarily care for the product either. That's my, I know folks love that truck, and maybe they're right and I'm wrong. I just don't care for it. So for me, I feel like my bias is always kind of negative on Rivian.
Yeah. I mean, the chart looks like it's in sort of a recovery mode, but it's kind of looked like it's been in a bit of a recovery mode for 2 years, going on the third.
Yeah.
And this $20 level, $19 to $20 level, this is just an awful spot for the stock. It has not been able to get to see these prints above 20 since looks like 2023. So go ahead.
I was just going to say Amazon, pretty big pullback here. Bitcoin also pulling back, doing its best to hold on to 92K.
Yeah, that's a good point, Hades. Don't forget the end of the tax credit. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be as big of an issue for Tesla. It's going to be big, but it's not as big of an issue for Tesla as it is for some of these other EV names, I believe, because Tesla's got other stuff going for it. But pure EV plays like Rivian, that's going to be bad.
Optimus, man, were you around when I was reading the story yesterday about Elon Musk thinking that an Optimus robot can just follow everybody around and prevent crime, literally stop you from doing crime and others? I know. I move over, RoboCop.
You know what? That'd be great if you try to steal something and then you get the RoboCop drop it.
That would actually be kind of funny. Hey, how about this? You finally taking a breather at 41.5.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great move, and this is still on. This move is just on the price targets, not the contract, which still doesn't have a figure attached to it. And this looks like it's going to probably lose VWAP and come back in a little bit. So next areas of support can be 40, and then beneath that, probably 38.50. Then you have the 65 EMA at 38.
Altimmune here, ticker ALT being mentioned by Kathy. This is a nice little reversal here. 30-cent move on Altimmune from the 540 area.
Let's see. Well, here's the thing, Justin guy. That if you allow that, then it's not. But yeah, it's. I don't see robots just following you around. I mean, we have plenty of cameras all over the place. All it's going to need is just a camera to alert a control center that alerts the robot and sends them after you.
Matt saying, it would be funny up until the point where you get riddled with machine gun bullets. It's all fun and games until the robot busts out a machine gun. Because that gives me Terminator vibes. Ondas 12 calls, it's not all that big. That's only 25K there, but those are out to June. I actually saw some more call buying the last several days in the low teens to mid-teens out into the middle of next year. So this option trade seems to be along the lines of some of the other bigger ones that we've seen earlier.
If you haven't watched the original Terminator in a while, it might be a bit unsettling to watch, some of the futuristic battles and kind of, look at those through the lens of, wow, we're making all this stuff right now.
Yeah. Terminator hits a little bit differently.
It hits differently now.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
And I'll say I like Terminator 1, 2, and 3. When I find those on the guide, I'll flip around. I'll stay there. Lululemon in jeopardy here of losing its 65 EMA. Chipotle, by the way, more highs here. Where's the noob? He's obviously been doing good work here, trying to support Chipotle. I might have to get that for dinner today.
Yeah,
so here we go with Lulu. We're right there. We are right at that 65 EMA. We'll see what's next for this one.
Yeah, I'm seeing that Big Hurt Zedge coming back up, trying to recapture that VWAP. Jay mentioning Oracle up 88 billion in debt. Now, here's a point that a lot of people might not like about Netflix with this massive debt in mind. If they do end up buying Warner Brothers, how much debt are they going to be taking on? It's going to be substantial because they're also absorbing Warner Brothers debt.
And that's also kind of why I was saying with the whole Netflix trade here, like kind of want some closure on that fundamental issue holding over it, right? Because if they're going to spend more, what if that bid goes up? Then you're taking on even more debt. So to me, that trade, Kind of want that to be settled.
They're probably going to incur as much as 90 billion in debt. It's going to be a lot. And I'm just kind of wondering, well, I don't necessarily think that bodes well for the stock price if they're taking on that much debt. I could see this making this deal making the stock price go even lower before it recovers. Let's see here.
I tell you what, the movers don't look great at all.
Yeah, that's why I'm not really touching any of them today. Like we talked about how these could come back in.
Those weed movers just went up in smoke too. I mean, they're not even. I guess YCBD is.
Have I seen Minority Report? Yes, many times. I like that movie, and that's another one that very, very much could indicate things to come. But here's the thing: we haven't really nailed down, that psychic ability yet. That the precogs had. So everything else in that movie pretty realistic. That one thing just makes it cinema. Yeah, trading time over research. There you go. Excellent. That's probably the best attitude to have. There's not a whole lot to trade. Nothing really setting up looking good to you. Let's find some other trades and do some research on them. Absolutely fantastic. I like that.
Jeremy, that's the king things right there on that. If you don't have a trade, research instead. We have on Happy Hour, we've got 30 and 40-year veterans that say they do the exact same thing. It's a good habit to be in.
ZVD in Texas, Surrogates. I think I saw that movie once and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. And that was the Bruce Willis one. That one not for me. Zedge, here we are above VWAP. Yeah. We're approaching the highs of the regular session. 440 is the current high. Might still be able to get up to the 475 area.
Jay says usually not a great day when pot stocks lead. Indeed. Now they're not really leading much anymore. It seems like it's coming back in a little bit. Here's Zedge. This looks like it might trying to re-challenge those highs.
Yeah. And now look at Bitcoin sinking even lower.
Lost 92K.
Yeah. This daily chart does not look great to me. I don't know how long it's going to take, but just based on the way this chart looks, I think it goes under 80,000. Don't know how long it's going to take, but it just looks that way.
CW Parker, I'm shorting the QQQ 0-day options and getting paid.
ZVD, you hated too much. It's going to be the future. So you talk about the part where we literally borrow people's bodies. Because, jeez, I don't want to think about that. That's so it's weird. Creepy. We don't need actual physics. We just need to convince the masses that this new AI gadget is psychic. That maybe that's maybe that's a possibility there. But we have to, we need to develop something like that, or at least to give the appearance that it works. I don't know how far away we are with that, but maybe. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Jay. It looks like a bear flag. It needs to break 96 to invalidate that. I think that this goes down to 80, just based on the way that flag looks. And I don't know how long it'll take to get there, but Body's the new OnlyFans.
Oh, boy.
Here we go. All right.
Beat this at the 65 EMA. Let's see where Lulu is still holding that area. It's trying. Look at that. It's trying.
I think there's very few days where I'm happy about sitting on my hands. I feel like this is one of those days where I'm happy I didn't do anything.
I'm happy that I started 1 for 1 out of the gate and then kind of backed off because I think I would have given that back. Right?
Yeah, I feel like I would have been compelled to trade some of these cannabis names. I know I would have gotten hurt in these, and it's apparent that I would have. So I'm pretty happy that I just decided to sit on my hands about this today.
Okay, Wiss's stock here, RYM Rhythm. This was open for a whopping 20 seconds, unhalted at 40, rehalted at 50. 20 seconds that was open. No position. I mean, this is wild here. Careful with this one if you're going to trade this one. I'm going to avoid.
This is another marijuana name.
Yeah, this don't they have a brand of weed that they sell at dispensaries?
They feature some of the recognized and trusted names in the cannabis and hemp industries, including Rhythm, Incredibles, Dog Walkers, Bebo. I love these names. This is hilarious. No wonder it's
Senorita THC margaritas.
no wonder this thing is spiking. This thing has got some of the best names ever.
So I actually do recognize that Rhythm and Shine are brands that are sold by the local Curaleaf dispensaries here in Illinois. So I do recognize some of those, but this to me is dangerous. We've been talking about the pot theme a lot recently. This one really kind of seems dangerous. How thin is this thing? 1.3 million shares, but it's not even. God, this thing on average trades 18,000 shares. It's only traded 200,000 here today, and it's up 212% in a halt fest.
Amanda, how often do you visit your friend's store?
Yeah, Amanda, top 3 pot names of all time. What do you got for us? Quirkle's got to be up there.
Oh man, I've seen some pretty interesting names throughout my lifetime. But
my favorite one is Not Safe for Work.
Yes,
I'm afraid.
Some of the best ones aren't.
Stay focused, Ryan. How much can the U.S. make by allowing weed into the banking system? I mean, stay focused. I don't even know if I have a realistic number there. I got to think that's in billions, like tens of billions.
Here's a better question, I think. How much could cartels lose?
I mean, from what I understood, the way that the cartels played that whole thing is they just set up grows in the United States, illegal grows in the United States.
Yeah, that's part of it. But I mean,
but I mean, how much? I would imagine they would stand to lose a ton, and I would imagine that that's also one of the things at play here.
It might exactly. It might be part of the whole, going after the cartels in Mexico and Venezuela narrative that they're talking about right now. So we'll see if that ends up happening. I mean, Mexico, if they lock down that cartel problem, that would be an absolutely massive economic powerhouse. That my understanding right now is that Mexican labor is pretty skilled and cheaper than Chinese labor at this stage. So I mean, I think the U.S. really needs to be focused on everything south of us, including South America. I mean, there's just massive economic opportunities, in my opinion. Take care, Lion. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend.
Lion's going to go to the back of his restaurant and roll a big fatty and celebrate the weed move here today. I can already see it.
And hey, I think you're probably right about all that, and you certainly are right about some of these things with the cartels robbing farmers and taking over farms.
Yeah, they are.
I get the sense that that's only a matter of time too. If there's going to be a massive crackdown on cartels and we're going after them militarily, we'll see how long that lasts. There, oh, perfect! Look at that. Wisdom has some metrics for us. He makes $4K a plant. Do the math for how much money is in cannabis.
I'm not surprised that Wisdom's given us some figures there. That's par for the course for a Friday here. Lululemon, folks, we did break that 65 EMA, so that not the greatest support. Next up here, 203. We're at 204.5.
Oh, right. You know what? I hadn't thought about that, Ryan Summerall, but that's actually not a bad idea either. And I don't think that we're going to see the power consumption anywhere near data centers. But, you bring up an interesting point. And maybe there is some power diversion towards stuff like that, but it's not going to be anywhere near the demand that data centers have. But the water demand might be equally as large, or if not larger.
Yeah, you know what I hear regarding his comment, Ryan's comment there? I hear blah, 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 energy sector in 2026. That's what I hear, because I'm definitely bullish on energy going into next year. That hasn't changed. Oh, Lion.
Oh man. Oh,
Amanda, this is interesting.
Yeah,
I've
it
started
is.
trading Lulu differently. I used to be more aggressive, not caring if I get assigned the stock there or put to the stock. Now I don't want the stock. I think it will fall out of favor soon. All right. So what's interesting there, Amanda, on the daily chart here, we ended up closing up that gap that we have been talking about for a long time. And essentially what happened is we moved from 160 to 200 in order to close that gap. Now it looks like we're pulling back. We might enter, if we break this 203 and continue to trade down here, we might actually break back into that gap area. I'm just trying to get an idea of what you were, when you said fall out of favor soon.
Like after the
I
holiday
guess I'm trying to assign a time frame to that. What was that?
Like after the holiday season is when you're thinking they'll fall out of favor. Right, Amanda. And as far as the chart goes, I mean, it's just this is not a good looking reversal candle here. I mean, if you're looking for upside, it's not a good looking candle. I still could see this potentially running up to the 200-day SMA though. I still see that there's a potential for some more upside, but it's going to be suppressed. You have the 200-day SMA, and then maybe you have 250 above it. I'm not confident it's going to about a whole lot of upside beyond 250 right now. Maybe later on, but I think that's kind of I'm with Amanda on this. I'd probably be a little bit more cautious on this stock, and 250 looks like it's quite a level.
I don't think the main market cares much about them as they did 2 years ago. Yeah, I think that's the competition angle that we've really kind of highlighted there.
Any thoughts on natural gas? I think it's going to be big next year. It's one of the whole reasons I like the turbine play.
Yeah. Also just kind of a subset of the energy trade that we were just talking about.
Which stocks are you looking at for the Santa rally?
It's a decent question. I hadn't thought about that yet.
I hadn't either.
When it comes to the Santa rally, I generally like to kind of take the temperature of what's going on there. Maybe that's not the right move. I'm thinking that you might, any stocks that start talking about how great the holiday season was might be in play for a Santa rally. Depending on how these tech names hold up here, you might see kind of a regression back to the mean on some of the ones that have sold off during the Santa rally. And then obviously any other news that comes out closer to that. That's a good question. That's actually a good kind of a group task here to come up with.
Well, I think we have been looking around for some names that could take part in the Santa rally, and it's been generally low float names that sometimes that have some good short interest. But when it comes to these names that I think could run, I want them to have really low floats. I want them to have some decent looking financials, maybe even some good free cash flow. I think those will get sought out, and some traders or some group will try to push that up. But I think those would be the ones I'd be scanning around for, and just kind of like making a list of them that look good and have been really hammered down, maybe like down at least 40% on the year, and they're starting to recover. So it's not going to be some big names, which certainly could still move very well in the Santa rally, but for the big outsized moves, I think I'd be looking for the really low float names that have been hammered down and could take part in the crack trading portion of the Santa rally. You know what I mean?
Okay. Real quickly here, Jay says CMG is a Santa rally name, in my opinion. I would agree with that. And Jay, I would ask, do you think other names that maybe had kind of a rough 2025 might also meet that Santa rally criteria? Because I feel like CMG had kind of a rough one here. Albert says, get out of here with your Santa rally nonce. This year there won't be any, just like we didn't have an October, in my opinion.
Maybe.
And you know what? He's not wrong about that. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of that seasonality that we talked around October and September didn't materialize. So perhaps the Santa rally falls victim to that as well. SPY, by the way, on this pullback here, you guys, can everyone just please stop selling for a damn minute, please? SPY here down to 684. We talked about this being a pretty key level. We'll see if we get a bounce here.
I would say the one thing I would push back on that, Albert, is that we have seen the crack trading happen. That is actually happening. And I think that it still might continue. So we are getting some of that. I don't think we are getting this. I don't think we're getting Santa Rally today. This is crack trading. Santa Rally, as you know, Ryan, you can inform us all. It happens after the holiday.
Yep, and into the next year.
And into
several days into the next year.
Now, yeah. So, but the pot names certainly part of crack trading, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, without a doubt. Liquaba Singh. I'm sure I butchered that, and I'm sorry. Hi guys, do you think Lulu is done for upside? I think there's some differing opinions there on Lulu. By the way, SPY, before I switch away from the chart here, SPY did lose 684 on this pullback. Again, we'll see if this bounces. Nasdaq still pulling back here. As far as sorry,
Bitcoin. Look at this thing go down.
Bitcoin still pulling here too.
It is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Time.
Yeah. Bitcoin. I'll tell you what. Maybe that's telling us that there's risk off right now. As far as Lulu goes here, I'm not as bearish as some of the other folks on Lulu. I still think they have a superior product amongst some of its competitors, and I do think it has positive seasonality and through the rest of the year here. So I don't necessarily want to say that the upside is done totally, but I'm not sure on this. My trade for the day is done here on Lulu. If this can hold 203-ish, again, maybe we get another kind of a range trade here. If you're asking for kind of a longer term, I had 231 as the 200-day moving average. I'd really like to see that tested. I think if it doesn't get tested, you do run the risk of this kind of rolling over, though. So I'd look for a move towards 231.
Wisdom
plus 13%. Oh man,
it's awesome. Well, Wisdom, I haven't tried a pineapple yet, but I have done a kazoo. So make of that what you will. Is PLTZ could be the Santa Rally? Maybe
I'm
RGTZ
allergic to pineapple.
Oh, that sucks.
No, it doesn't. It's a vile weed. It has the worst texture of anything I've ever tried, and it just tastes disgusting.
Okay, well, you're not coming with me to Hawaii then.
Well, I go to Hawaii and not. I mean, look. I said I'm allergic to pineapple, not hula dancers.
I drink out of pineapples in Hawaii, sir.
Oh my God. You know what I will do? 13, I'll join you. I'll drink out of a coconut.
Okay.
That's what we'll do. Ryan is wrong on that. Yeah, actually, there are a lot of people that like pineapple, like look at me like I'm an alien.
Here's my olive branch to you then. It does not belong on pizza. Sorry, anybody in chat that believes it does. I'm not there with you on that.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that goes without saying. When I was listening to one of the older Elon Musk, Joe Rogan podcasts where they order a extra large double anchovy, double pineapple pizza, God. I was like, oh my God. And Joe's trying to explain how the pineapple goes well with the anchovies. And I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? This is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard.
I was asked about where I think Bitcoin goes before I go and pick up the coin ETF. I mean, I could see Bitcoin getting support around 75. That's my next big area of support when I'm looking at a daily chart. I mean, you could just look at a daily chart and draw a line at 75 and right about there.
We probably still have our lines at 75 on that.
I mean, I'd be looking at the bottom from April, the Liberation Day unwind as a support area. That's right around 75. So I like that level. And if we do get that, I think we could maybe end up rebounding. I don't know if we're going to go on to make new all-time highs following that move. That's the support at 75. But to answer the question, that's where I think the support is.
3D asking about a pina colada. I generally speaking don't go for those because they have pineapple juice in them. That is what it is. It is what it is. I am not opposed to fruity drinks with some umbrellas in there, depending on where I'm at. Like if I'm in Hawaii with 13, yeah, I will. I'll do a fruity drink with one of those little umbrellas in it. Sure.
I was just asked about Altimmune, ticker ALT. It's up 12%.
Kathy mentioned this one earlier. Sorry, I feel like I'm behind you. Here was the Bitcoin chart. Yeah. Really quickly, I just wanted to give my thoughts on this. You guys were talking about 75K. Mm-hmm. The last time that Bitcoin really showed weakness here, I was talking about wanting to see this down at 72K. I'll be honest, I don't think I've budged from that. I still think I'd like an opportunity to load. And furthermore, 13, I really think that the 72 to 75K area would represent a pretty decent area to add Bitcoin if it gets down there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good looking spot for reversal. And like I said, I don't know that goes on to make new all-time highs, but if you're looking for a trade in crypto, that 70 that whole area you mentioned, 72, 75, looks like it's got some really good support.
Yeah. Okay. You wanted me to go to Altimmune. Let's do that. Let me go back to the main workspace here. We'll bring up Alt. This had made, I think, a 40-cent move earlier. Oh yeah. My God, even more. Kathy, good call.
As far as the news goes, I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing like there's from December 8th and December 11th here, so earlier this week. Most recently, heavy put volume, directionally bearish, but 3 days earlier, call volume above normal, directionally bullish. I think this is a squeeze. I think that's what we're getting out of this price action here today. It's a squeeze. I don't see any news attached to it. There's a really long-term trend line that I have drawn on the chart here. You could draw it yourself if you start with the July high from 2020 and draw it through the August 2022 high and just keep it going. You see that every peak that we've had since that time kind of lines up with that, and we've just moved over it today. So I think that what we're getting here is a bit of a squeeze. It's setting up for a potential golden cross later on this month, maybe, but it's got to hold above this trend line. Now you are coming up to the 500-day SMA. That's going to be at about 659. That's going to certainly provide some resistance, but this looks like it's squeezing more than anything. And I don't know how high this is going to go beyond the 500-day SMA. If anything, it probably will come back in after hitting that, because the RSI is starting to get a little extended as well.
Kathy here saying one of your guests was talking about it on Monday or Tuesday. That must have been Adam Mesh on Tuesday, right? That must have been, because we didn't have a guest on Monday.
Okay, that must have been him, because you had Tim Melvin on Wednesday. You didn't have anybody yesterday, and then you had Mark today.
And I didn't have. Yeah, it must have been Adam Mesh. And I'll tell you what, he's as sharp as they come when it comes to some of these stocks to trade. So
what did he say about it? Because
I'm drawing a blank. I feel like I have to go back and watch that replay. But you know what? That the good news here, Kathy, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's something any of you can do by going to the YouTube page, youtube.com/@Benzinga. You can actually look that up.
Yeah, so
you noticed unusual volume. Thank you, Kat.
Okay.
Your memory is better than mine.
What I would say is, because I don't know enough about what's happening here with this. I'm just going off of the technicals and the short interest and kind of thinking, oh, we're squeezing. You might get a better explanation about where this goes or what's happening here with this if you just look at what Mr. Mesh said. Don't listen to me. Listen to him. He's obviously spent more time looking at it than I have, and I'm just telling you what I see just looking at it today. So I think I would defer to Mr. Mesh.
Sell. Thanks, guys. Taking an early leave. Bronco fever. Huh. Who do the Broncos play this week, Sell? I know. I knew the answer. I asked a question I already knew the answer to.
Okay.
Many blessings, Wisdom. Take care of yourself. Thanks for answering the pot leaf signal. Pot weed? I mean, Ryan, I sound like a boomer. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, they're smoking all them pot weeds, you dang kids.
Yeah.
Zed just trying. Oracle, no bounce. That's fine. Oracle can keep coming in. I expected this to come back in.
I'm gonna refresh Pro here. This looks a little laggy.
Let me see where we are at with this. Okay, so we haven't gone beneath the support area we found yesterday around 186.5. So that's holding up, but I get the sense that this is still going to end up going lower. I think I like down in the 170 to 175 as a low. I'm interested in this around 180 where the gap fills. So I just get the sense that this is going to continue to lower. It might consolidate for a couple of days, maybe see some the prints up closer to 200, but I still think that this is trading down into a bearish pattern. But eventually it's going to reverse and it's going to have a nice breakout, but not yet.
Something is wrong with RYM. Well, I mean, dude, yeah, it's been halted 6 times. It's up at the highs here, and it doesn't even stay open for very long. I feel like the stock's open for like 30 seconds before it rehalts. Amanda, take care of yourself. I had no idea you were training for a marathon. That's massively impressive. Good luck with that.
Fantastic. Take
And
care.
big spread's not a good sign. No, they aren't, Zach. And I'll tell you, at least for me, and maybe this is a deficiency in my own trading here, stuff that's spread, it just inherently makes me more nervous. Like I almost never feel like I get good entry unless I kind of throw out a bid at a specific price that happens to get filled. And then a lot of the times it's like spread around my, I struggle more with that. Gad's asking for a third time if ACAN is a good buy. We cannot tell you what is a good or a bad buy. Neither of us are financial advisors, and we cannot advise you how to trade. So please figure that out on your own. We'll try and take a look at the chart and see what makes sense for the chart, but ultimately those decisions are going to be your own.
We were talking about all the cannabis names earlier and how these are likely going to be faded.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening here right now. I mean, this is a penny
the
stock.
only one that isn't is RYM. And that we just talked about how risky that can be. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the intent here to buy ACAN. I mean, if you're looking to do a long hold with this one, just look at the chart and you can understand that this thing is not one you probably want to invest in. At least not until they start making some changes to the cannabis rescheduling and banking. Right now, I don't like ACAN or the pot names in general. They're just money losers at this point.
Up in smoke. And then with SARS ACAN here, in addition to the really just awful looking intraday chart that it has here, we're back to penny territory. So no bueno.
And yes, Zedge is moving up. It made some new session highs, 470 it ran up to, which is pretty dang close to the trend line that I drew.
How about Broadcom? Broadcom here. Wow, this thing just leaked. Boy, I tell you what, the short trade there, that was better than the Lulu long trade. This short trade here, the back test of that 378 area, probably could have dropped that a little bit. This thing's just where's Bharat today? I'm surprised Bharat's not on a Navago shore. Maybe he is, and it's just making so much money he doesn't have time to talk to us peasants. But this trade setup here on Broadcom, this was the trade of the day. I'm sorry I didn't take this one.
Joe, so here's what we were looking at when it came to Lulu when they started to report earnings. We noticed that it was selling off when they had announced the CEO move, and then they dumped earnings, and that completely reversed it and sent it higher. So I don't think the CEO reason is the most important reason, because initially it was selling off on that. I think the most important reason was the buybacks.
Rooster saying, what is considered a huge spread? I don't really necessarily have them tiered out here. I probably use huge more often than I should. Generally speaking, a 50-cent spread. I mean, it really depends on the price of the stock, right? Like if Tesla's spread 50 cents, do I really care? No. Especially if it's moving and I have a thesis for it. But like one of these stock like Rhythm, that's $40, $50. It started at $20 today. Stock that spread 50 cents, pretty big. Stock that spread over $1 for me, I mean, that's just like, I just don't love it. 25 to 50, says Izzy. I can still handle 25, but when you start getting up to that 50 cent, half a dollar, I mean, that to me is like, I just feel like I make more mistakes than that when it's spread like that. Rhythm dropped $10 on the unhalt. Did it really? And it's not halted yet.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh. Like I said, I just stay away from this.
This is just fantastic price action with Broadcom. I know it sounds weird when you're in a stock and you're happy about it going down. This thing was getting extended, and I have a long-term time horizon. So when you see this we'll call it healthiness in the stock, I'm happy because I know this is going to end up going higher. I'm just a long-term holder. I'm just being patient.
GEV at 670, by the way, that continues to pull back.
Pretty red day. Let's see.
Izzy, I'd buy 1,000 shares. Then that is big, Ryan.
Right, what?
Yeah, I think I need some more.
Look at the SPY chart here. This price action so far today in the regular session It's not looking the greatest. I think I would need to see some a recapture of 685.50, maybe 686. We start trading above that, I think we're in recovery mode. If we can't start closing above that, I think we're going to get rejected and go lower.
For me, at least on the SPY here, great that it's trying to bounce off 684. This really kind of confirms that 684 spot that we have been talking about for a while is indeed a key level here. But to your point, day's not over here, and if you're expecting more sell-off, we might lose that here in the session.
Yeah, I think, Brian, you're right about that. A lot of people.
I see, Izzy. If you're buying 1,000 shares of something, 25 to 50 cents is a big spread. No doubt about it. I mean, no doubt about it.
Oof, that's a big pull and edge.
That's another thing for day trading. Like I feel like day trading stocks, you're way better off. The closer you can get that spread, the better. Because if you're just looking for little moves with a huge position, you want to make sure that you get in and out there. You don't want to be messing around with those stocks that are spread that big. GEV, nice bounce here. Again, this is one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to wait this out and not overreact. Go ahead.
Yeah, Joe's mentioning Nike earnings on December 18th. He wonders if the sales in the retail sector are generally up. This is a better this is a time where you're going to start to see apparel and some other consumer product names get a lift because of the holiday season. But those sectors have been hammered down pretty heavily this year, and I'm looking towards next year for some recovery in some of those names. Nike has one of the, I think it has the largest float in the apparel, largest moat in the apparel sector. They're just massive, and I think they're turning around. They had a new CEO in there who's been with the company for decades. They're trying to turn things around. I think as we approach the World Cup, could continue to get more of a lift in Nike. I think consumer products are coming back from being down over the past year, and Nike certainly looks like it's one of the ones that's going to be turning up some more. Yeah. Yeah. Cannabis is still federally legal, right? And I agree that people are selling into into this movement that we had here. So don't think it's a great time to be picking up the weed names as people are selling into this strength.
Sorry, just reviewing the option chart here. Don't see anything terribly interesting. Looks like a put buy here for January on Target. That was bought in size. 1,500 put contracts, $400,000 there. So they're actually looking for Target to move towards what, 90? Yeah, they're looking for Target to move down here. It was the 95. That seems to be a kind of a bearish bet around the holidays for Target. That might be notable.
Oh, that's not a good looking candle here today. And it's interesting. The last time that we had a candle that looked like this back on October 28th, this thing sold off.
That's Target, right? You're still
yeah. So I think that would be one of two things I'd be looking at with Target here. That's there's a trend line that I've got here, but I don't think that matters as much as we're getting a very similar set of price action as we did on the 28th. But we are doing this above the 200-day SMA. We just recaptured that. So I would also think that if we hold above the 200-day SMA, then maybe we don't see that weakness that I'm thinking we could get.
Red wire. I noticed that's on the scanner here. That's from the space theme. I don't see a whole lot of great movers here. And you know what? I'm actually a tad surprised here. The move down in the market, I feel like would have done a pretty good job showing us relative strength. And there just really isn't a whole lot. At least not that I see here. Zach, take care of yourself. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the whiskey over the weekend, buddy. Be safe. What are you going to do with no F1 now, Zach? You got to have some soccer matches lined up for this weekend, I got to think.
Can you get a discount from Bitcoin by buying strategy? I don't know how that would work. Can you get a discount from Bitcoin? I guess I'm misunderstanding your question here. You want to try and take that one, Ryan?
I'm sorry, I was reading a terrible news story. Repeat the question to me.
Cyril is asking, can we get a discount from Bitcoin by buying Strategy?
No, I believe you actually pay a premium, right? Where's Jamie Dimon at? Where's Jamie Dimon and the negativity on Bitcoin? I believe that by buying MicroStrategy, like the whole thought there was that buying MicroStrategy gives you exposure to Bitcoin without actually buying Bitcoin. But I'm pretty sure that by doing it that way, you actually end up paying a premium for that Bitcoin. You don't actually get it at a cheaper price.
NVVE is getting mentioned here as a penny stock, where they're doing a reverse split. Well, I think they would have to. They're probably not.
Did I get that? Sorry to interrupt you here. Ryan's saying MSTR is technically a discount on Bitcoin. Did I get that wrong, Ryan? Let me hang on a second.
See, that's why I wasn't able to answer that question. I just literally don't know, and I'm not sure how it would be if it.
Eat Trade Travel. It depends on the NAV. Well, where are we at right now? Let's see. Okay, recent NAV trends. As of November of 2025, MicroStrategy stock dipped below the NAV for the first time in 2 years, with a market to NAV ratio of approximately 0.977. This indicates that investors are currently valuing the company less than its actual asset value.
Because of that debt service, probably. So with the NVVE, this got announced that it's doing a 1-for-40 reverse split. It's up 9.3%.
That means it's a premium. That's what I thought. Eat Travel. Thank you.
So with NVVE, I think it's going to reverse split, and then they're likely going to do some kind of capital raise because they need the cash. So this is nothing more than a day trade, in my opinion. I don't think I'd be holding this because maybe it goes up more after the reverse split, but I'm pretty certain they're going to just hit this with an offering.
Thank you, Eat Trade Travel, and anyone else that weighed into that. I appreciate that. Yeah, to me that didn't seem right. MicroStrategy, you're paying a premium to own the Bitcoin. Brian says paying a premium to be down 50% in the last 6 months is an insane move. I'll be honest. I hope Saylor's thing works out. I don't have a position in MicroStrategy, but I hope Saylor's thing works out, mostly because I really enjoy the back and forth that's going on. I love that Saylor's just kind of taking it. He was at, I believe, JP Morgan's building, right? He posted a picture on X about guess what bank I'm in. And I'm pretty sure that the Grok said that based on the photograph and the view of Central Park that he was in JP Morgan's building, which is, to me, is funny.
You better hope it works out, because if it doesn't, that sailor's going down with the ship.
Oh, 13, man. That was...
Hey, I'm not trading right now. I got time to make jokes. I'm not trading right now.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel bad. I'm sorry to the group here. I'm not either. I don't see anything great. I don't necessarily see anything that makes me want to buy it or sell it here today. I'm kind of just waiting around.
I mean, there's probably some pretty good put trades that people are able to take here. I mean, we're still looking pretty bearish in a lot of these names, but it's been a great week, and I don't feel like giving anything back. I'm not going to try and take the positions in this sell-off here.
Louis, my guy, what's your positioning for next week's Federal Reserve meeting, bro? You might have slept through a couple of meetings here. You might have slept through a couple of days here. That meeting happened on Wednesday. That already took place this week. Next week is the Bank of Japan. Peter, I'm sorry we didn't get to this earlier. You asked nicely. You didn't spam. I unfortunately didn't pull it up, so I take responsibility for this. I'm sorry. He wanted to know about AMD. What do you see here? Here's your AMD chart. AMD, the one thing here, there's two things going on. Number one, this is obviously trading with the rest of tech. We've talked about a tech pullback here. I see this really kind of pulling back to the island for a second time. I almost wouldn't be shocked if this tried and filled this gap to the downside here. The other aspect of this is that it does seem like AMD might be catching up to NVIDIA, albeit very slowly. So something else to kind of fold into this. Looking at this chart, though, with the inability to capture the 20-day moving average recently, the continued rollover, as well as the inability to move through the 50, I got to think we probably go retest 200 from this 214.5.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that this is this constant rejection of the 20-day SMA that you pointed out, that's leading to the downside. It's starting to roll over here.
Yeah.
I would think that it could go underneath 200 briefly before it tries to recapture it. That's what's happened on November 21st and 25th. The price went down to the 195 area and recovered from there and closed both times above the $200 level. So that would be some similar price action I'd be anticipating. Maybe this goes beneath 200, but we need to watch for a recapture by the end of the day, because that's going to tell us whether or not this goes higher or lower, I think.
Yeah, let group, if anyone else has any insight or thought here on AMD, let Peter know. Peter, thanks for being patient. I'm sorry about missing you the first time.
Looks like we're trying to get some recovery in some of these names. Don't know how great this recovery is going to be. We are past that 10:30 time where volume does end up leaving the market. So I would just maybe say, like I typically do when it comes to this time, keep some of these on your radar. It looks like you could see some recovery later on in the day, in the afternoon. We've seen plenty of these movers in the morning return, in the afternoon. A lot of them did yesterday. I think there's maybe 2 that didn't, but a lot of them did. It's just one of those things. Like, just make sure that if you're still trading, if you have an urge to still trade, don't force these things, but just keep them on your radar, because sometimes they can come back in the afternoon.
And this is a good mention here. Tristan, Lulu is indeed for temporarily, or actually right now, again, it's right under 203. I had my line marked off at 202.76. I just kind of estimated 203. Here's the big thing that we'd like to see. It's possible that this still just kind of hangs out in this range here today. In fact, right now, as we're speaking, it looks like it's trying to trade back up. We'll see if it's got the strength to do that. But if I wanted to flip short on this for the possibility of a day trade, what I would like to see is a breach through this level that I have, this line here, call it 203 if you will, and then maybe a back test of that, very much like we saw on Broadcom. In fact, if you want to look at a template almost for that type of trade, this is what we had on Broadcom, right? We're in the range, the pre-market range that we had identified. We broke, we traded back up to that range, could not recapture, and then lower we go. If we see something similar here on Lulu, I think that would be an all right day trade to the short side on Lulu.
Day trader, here's a thought here for you, and you can do some research on it. I don't have any positions in anything, but on that idea that you have there about a potential ground invasion in Venezuela any day, look into some of the South American banks. That's where I think you'd want to take a look.
We talked about that yesterday.
I think you want to look into the South American banks. That's where I would kind of send you to look. Particularly, I think maybe Argentinian banks might be the best ones, but certainly look at South American.
What did we have yesterday? SUPV was one of those, right? I'm trying to remember the tickers. SUPV. Yeah, Grupo Superville. I butchered that. I'm sorry. All my Spanish speakers out there, I'm sorry. My Spanish isn't better. And I think PAMS was the other one, right? PAMS.
Oh, man, if Stay Focused was here, he could help us out. I don't.
He was here earlier.
I didn't write them all down, but I'd have to look back to some older notes when he was mentioning it earlier. But I do think that that's the potential way to go there. Look at those banks in South America. Just by Bitcoin, maybe. It worked for El Salvador, right?
Kevin, take care of yourself. Good stuff, Kevin, as always.
Alpha Trade says Argentina banks. All right.
BBAR and G. There we go. Thank you. BBAR, that's Banco BBVA, and GGAL. There you go. That's what our chat. Look at our chat.
Yep.
Look at our chat.
Yeah, I'd be looking into those South American banks on that theme that you're talking about.
Yeah, huge pull in the market, Bri. That was a good call, and this one's actually affecting the Dow too. Did we get news? Some Oracle data centers for OpenAI delayed to 2028 from 2027. So negative news there, Oracle. That's sending the market lower here. SPY and Q's leading the way down on this move.
Now, I'm not trying to, forecast the bottom or anything, but this sell-off here might represent a pretty good buying opportunity going into next year. So I'm not saying let's jump in front of this and try to catch this knife, but once this settles out and we get some support, let's start looking at potential upside trades. Because
I think this move down in the market is being attributed to this Oracle data center delay to 2028 from 2027.
And where's Oracle now?
13. We got a wrap here.
Okay. You want to drop the beat?
Drop the beat. I don't have my DJ panel here.
Okay.
That's another story for another day. 13 closing words for the group here.
Fantastic day with everybody. Had a great time, not trading anything. I think just exercising some safety and discipline worked really well for us. Those of you that did make a trade, fantastic job on navigating this market bearishness that we're having here today, especially with all the cannabis names going crazy. Yeah. You know what? Everybody had a great time. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back here on Monday for some more wild trading action. So until then, have a great weekend. Take care. Goodbye.
Okay. Absolutely amazing. 13. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. Oh, yeah. We'll check in with you on Monday. 13's departure leaves room for Sandy. Let's check in and see how she's doing. Sandy, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Look, you're coming on at a really good time. We just got some news here about Oracle. It's sending the entire market lower. What are you looking at here today?
Hey, I'm looking at silver and gold, and you know why.
Well said. Short and succinct. We'll take it. Folks, Trading Made Simple with Sandy starts right now.
Welcome back, traders. This is Sandra with Trading Made Simple. I'm here to show you short-term proven strategies. People think trading is a one-size-fits-all market. It's not. We live trade and train daily. Let's talk trading.
Benzinga, glad to be here. Happy Friday. So what are we doing today? Well, we got a little bit of a pullback, a little bit. Look at Oracle here. We got some news on Oracle. Not very good news, and we're taking a plunge. Not only did we have a huge gap, right? I'm on a 15-minute chart. You could see this huge gap down. And because we had that huge gap down, we were unable actually to fill the gap. Now, whenever you cannot fill the gap, that gap actually becomes resistance. And it becomes very hard to get through that gap. And what that really means to a retail trader is that there's continuation to the downside. So as you can tell, I have a gap, basically a gap filter on my Thinkorswim so that I can identify those gaps. And then that really allows me, right, to identify when a stock, there were several yesterday that even though we had a gap, it filled the gap during the afternoon, and then they went, they took off. And when you see a gap that's being filled and then a go, well, that is a continuation to the upside and looks really good. Now, December and Q4, guys, I mean, this has been a wild ride. And because it's been a wild ride, you want to just keep focus. So when we come to the charts each and every day, right, it's not a Groundhog Day, guys. And I know that everybody likes coming over to their computer, identifying charts, and then taking trades. It's something that becomes a habit to you. But I have to tell you that each and every quarter is extremely different. And without you identifying that each and every quarter is different and what might be taking place for the next quarter, like for Q1, for January 26, if you're not mindful of these changes, you're going to come in here and do Groundhog's Day, right? You're going to do what you typically do because it's your routine. But the market has something else planned, and it doesn't care about your routine. This is also not a slot machine, so it's not Vegas. So you're not going to get a dinner or, comp a room or anything. Sometimes you get over to your computer and you get violated right away without any little bit of fun. And because of that, you want to be mindful to keep your capital. because it's during these times where a lot of retail traders are like, "Ooh, I need to put some trades on," and really, you actually just need to take a step back and preserve your capital, because preserving your capital is actually a position. You want to be ready for the clean setups. Now, right now, we have a really big gap down in Oracle. We could get an exhaustion period where the stock is like, "Hey, enough is enough." Let's take a look at it though on a daily basis here. On a daily, you can actually see that we've been in a downtrend since September, right? You have a high, a lower high, a lower high. And even this one is a lower high. And then we have the gap down. And you can see the lows, right? A low, it's a lower low and a lower low. And so now you can tell that we've done basically a double bottom, right? So we had a low, we gap down, but this little low right here is actually holding a support. So this is an important zone on a daily for Oracle. So this is really nice. And if you wanted to pad this little area right here, because this is really strong support. So if you said, "Hey, I want to make an automated trade, Sandy," and I'd be like, "What? Excellent. I'm with you," because I love the automation. It takes the emotions, right, as well as Groundhog Days, right out of your routine. You look at the chart, you make your decision, and then you go from there. So even though we had a really bad opening here for Oracle based on news, we could look at the chart and say, I need to pad this little area right here, because this consolidation line, this bottom that's holding as support, is not exact. So I want to make sure that I pad a little bit to the bottom and I say, okay, where this consolidation bottom is at around 185.19. If we break below, as an example, 185, and that could be going into next week, then I want to take a put, because I know that this is really strong support. So this is one thing that I would be taking a look at. And the other is that you can on a daily see where support is right here above it, right? We see our consolidation lines. By the way, guys, this is just an indicator, no secret sauce on Thinkorswim, called Darvas, Darvas. It looks a little different. This was a custom made Darvas that I have, but Toss has a Darvas band that you could take a look at it. And what it does is identifies very important consolidation areas. And those consolidation areas act as important support and resistance. So now remember, on the chart, it's a very thin line. We want to make sure that we pad it a little so that we can create a zone, right? Because we know better. It's not a finite line right there. And so as we take a look at that, we can say, okay, well, if we break below that 185, I'm going for a put next week, and make it a couple weeks out. A good swing trade, 10, 20 days, depending on the cash level, the risk amount that you want, and then take a look at that going forward. And then, of course, if we stay within this consolidation area, right, then we're actually just in this range until we actually break out. So we actually, on a day chart, need to break out above that 225. Now, I know that that's a really large area to take a look at. But whatever I'm seeing on the chart right now, I could go to a smaller time frame and do the exact same thing. So if you were a day trader and you were like, well, let's take a look at a 5-minute right now. We already noticed that right over here, this 186 to 185 is that important zone, right? So if we just identify it right here and say, okay, if we break below that today, I'm going for a put, into next week. Now, the 20 EMA acts as really good resistance. So we could take a bounce up to the 20. It's not until we actually break above that 20 that we might have a trend change. So could this level act as maybe an area that you could say, hey, I want to call if we break above that 20? Absolutely. And you notice that I have my pre-market low, mid, and high on my chart. Those pre-market levels, guys, if you don't already know, those pre-market levels act as your range for the trading day if you're a day trader. This is really important because if you know what your range is And then you can automate, hey, if I break above the high or if I break below the low, then I'm going for those respective trades. Break above the high, it's a call. Break above below the low, it's a put, right? And then you can automate something. You can automate a stop loss as an example. And then just make sure you give yourself enough time on the clock. No zero DTEs and stuff like that. Not for something like this. And so really then you're looking at a 5 to a 15-minute chart and you're taking a look and going, wow. So actually, Oracle was in a range between here, 195 to 199, and we broke way below it. So today, as an example, if you were day trading or you had an automated trade on, because that's what Trading Made Simple does. We do our automations each and every week. That's tradingmadesimple.org. You just go right over to the low here and you say, hey, look, if we break below that low, give yourself a little pad because you know it's not a finite line. Then I'm going to get into a put. And where would you be? You would be in a lot of profit right now. And that's a very simple way that you can identify this. By the way, Thinkorswim does have a pre-market indicator to help you identify the range. I actually like to take not only the pre-market, but I like to take the aftermarket too, especially if I'm using TradingView. Very clear and concise what your ranges are. And they act as extremely good support and resistance for day traders out there. Always have to look at, a 15-minute to maybe a 1 hour for an intraday trade, and then also a 4 hour, 1 hour, 4 hour, and daily for a swing trade. So really like to take advantage of those time periods. And you can see that we're doing a little bounce on Oracle. If we take a look at Market Watch up here, you can actually see what the market looks like. And it doesn't look very good, right? We got all the big boxes, which is our major tickers that basically too big to fail, right? They basically control the entire market. You can see that most of them are red. And then you can see the other sectors, the financials here, industrials, right? Healthcare, consumer discretion, not looking as bad as the other areas as well, sectors, as well as healthcare. And, healthcare is one of those that people jump into when they want to jump to safety. What's another one they go into is actually materials. Materials not looking too good. And, I was just telling Ryan today, I'm looking at gold and silver, right? Because isn't that a hedge position when the market's going lower? So let's first take a look at SPY really quick for you day traders out there. Still not looking good, making a lower low here on a 1 hour. Let me take a look at a 15. Making a lower. I don't really, okay, so we got a little bit of a base here on a 5-minute, okay? So this could actually last for a really long time. And we just broke the low of the day. What does breaking the low of the day mean? It means that we're high probability that we're even going lower, right? This is all about statistics. And so when we break the low of the day, it just means, watch out, guys, we could be going lower. SPY down $8.77. Big down day. And this is what's crazy about Q4. If you guys didn't know this, each and every week I do training, and I did some training on Q4, and it's the highest volatility quarter of the year. And so when you can take a look at yesterday's performance in SPY as an example, and then take a look at today, you're like, right? You made your plan of action on your chart yesterday. You're looking at it and you're feeling really confident about what's happening. And then all of a sudden you wake up today and you're just like, what is happening, right? In the middle of the night, you probably thought it was all right. And then all of a sudden, we closed yesterday on SPY. We basically opened not too bad, but then as soon as we broke the low, guys, look at how that pre-market high and low work. We broke the pre-market low and stayed under the 20. Those are my favorite, right? And staircasing down. So this momentum is still weak on SPY. I just don't see a bounce just as of yet. Really needs some time to play out to see if maybe later this afternoon we get some sort of recovery bounce. Because what happens when all of these, this happens, right? Everyone's buying puts. And the market makers have to hedge their position. And so what they're doing is they're basically covering. And so what ends up happening sometimes is a short squeeze. It doesn't really mean that the market is recovering. It just means that there's a market mechanism that when all of a sudden there's a bounce in the market and everyone starts closing their puts, it's like a self-fulfilling machine that all of a sudden raises, right, the price of SPY as an example. Doesn't necessarily mean that the market environment has changed any. It just means that all of us combined, and I'm really talking about the institutions because we do not make any of these candles on the chart, right? We don't make any of the candles on the chart. All the institutions do. And when those institutions, right, all based on algorithms, start rolling up their trades and closing their puts out, this almost is like a self-fulfilling prophecy for the entire market, kind of creates this short squeeze where then all of a sudden it's just a market mechanism where the market starts going higher and higher and higher. And we could possibly, recover. Doesn't mean the market environment has changed. I just want you to keep that in mind. It's just a market mechanism. It's the mechanics of how the market works. Keep that in mind when you see these real quick recoveries, okay? Doesn't mean that's changed. So that's why I kind of wanted to look over at gold. And as I take a look at gold, I can see that we're just, you could tell, right? Based on SPY versus gold as an example, we're just bouncing off of our pre-market low, but clearly a lot stronger than all these other names, okay? Clearly a lot stronger than some of the market. And you can see that we're still up just a little bit. You could tell that we gapped up overnight into a nice position, and now we came back down. We filled the gap. So when you see that you filled the gap, what's your next move as a trader? You're like, well, are we going to have a gap and go? Or is this a gap and bounce? Because typically speaking, what will happen when a ticker takes a position, right? It fills the gap and then it makes a U-turn and goes in the same direction as it was going. So if you're thinking swing trade and we stay, right, we stay above that gap support, then we could just be going in the opposite direction for next week, which means the same direction that we were in this morning. I hope I didn't make that confusing. When I said it, it sounded confusing. So I want to make sure that I'm clear. As we take a look at this shaded area, this gap, if we do a gap fill and bounce and go right back into the opposite direction, this could completely recover is what I'm saying, and keep on going strong as a bull. If you ever get a gap fill and go, so you filled the gap and you keep on going, that means there's a continuation to that side. And so that gap always becomes basically support and resistance. Now, oftentimes we don't have to fill the gap. It's just something that we're very used to as traders. Oftentimes we'll just fill the gap halfway, make a U-turn and go right back to where we were going. And so as you know this, you don't have to I'm a very detailed oriented person, so I like to figure everything out. If you're like that too, this could drive you crazy. The markets can drive you crazy if you're that person. So what you want to do, right, is just know that these things happen and just be prepared versus having to figure it all out, because you never will. And just when you think you have it figured out, then there's a new quarter involved and you weren't thinking about what that new quarter brings. And that new quarter is going to be Q1. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But let's look at a couple of stocks. GDX as an example. GDX actually filling, this is gold miners, right? A little bit different, but in the same basket. We filled the gap and then we went, which means that that's bearish. So we're looking now for GDX to actually get back into the range. It needs to get back into here to become a player again, to still be considered a bull. Because if you take a look at a day chart, I mean, this is a beautiful chart. We hit kind of this high here back in October. And then we basically kind of went sideways for a really long time as the 20 EMA was going up. It was just taking its own sweet time. But then it really had a nice break of the Darvis right here. And typically speaking, if we break that on a daily, we're doing some continuation. Can we come back because that was resistance, which is now support? Could we come back and bounce? Absolutely, right? And that would be a pretty big bounce. So we could come back down to the 83, or we could just continue our momentum next week. And you could see how momentum's been high. All right. So now let's take a look at maybe at silver. Silver almost looking the same, actually looking nice. Almost had a double top here, came back down. Couldn't break. Looks like I had an older level here that I was watching. Didn't break it cleanly and then went right through. So gold and silver has been really performing very well. Silver down today about $1, but clearly more relative strength than the rest of the market. And that's what we just want to keep an eye on. And the reason is because if these are the tickers, right, that have relative strength over the market, then we can actually see these continue to rise as the market falls. Gold, silver, copper, metals typically are a hedged position for institutions. And so when they see the market falling, macroeconomics, wars, etc., gold and silver end up becoming a play. And so I would have to say that gold here probably looks the best GLD out of all of them. And basically, you can even see on momentum hitting that 200 level. It won't surprise me if we actually get a little bit of a pullback here or some consolidation. What ends up happening whenever we kind of break through a resistance? We usually get that consolidation again. And so as you can see, these are kind of like baby little candles on a daily. I like to look at those candles too, because I really want to see some bigger candles showing some bigger moves by institutions getting involved. So that is another one. Let's take a look at SOXL. You know, one of these three times leveraged ETFs. You have to be careful about this. These can be good for a swing, but you could see, boy, on a $42 stock, guys, down $6. This was really moving today if you caught it, right? If you catch one of these moves as an example, we just talked about support and resistance for pre-market. If you can catch one of these 3 times ETFs going either on the bull side or the bear side, and how would you do that? You just identify your pre-market levels and you can set an automation to do that. How would we do that with XOXL as an example? You could easily just go over to your trade tab and you could pick, let's say, a 14-day ETF. And then if we were to take a look at, and remember that we're not in a position to do this only because we've already broken down. So we're late on SOXL. Let me take a look at a stock and see if I can find something where we could do a quick trade here. This isn't bad. We've on Canva, we've actually hit resistance on a 5-minute, right? And by the way, your automations, the way you look at charts, it's on every single time frame. So it doesn't matter whether you're a day trader or a swing trader. You can utilize this type of framing or foundation along with automation for any type of trading. And that covers futures, etc. So as you can see for a day trade, I would easily take a look at this and say, hey, look, you know, we actually broke above on Canva. This was a very bullish day for Canva. Relative strength, Cava. I'm not saying that right. I'm saying Canva. It's Cava. A very big day for Cava. Talk about the relative strength on this. I'm going to put that on a watch list. This came up on some option flow. And so I was taking a look at my list to kind of look over the charts and say, hey, you know, which automations do I want to put forth? And that's something that you could do as well. But let me tell you, just because I want to do it doesn't mean I'm going to, because I recognize that Q1 is around the corner. We're still in Q4, which means that we still could have a lot of shenanigans happen. We've seen how this volatility has caused mayhem for a lot of traders. Why not keep your capital as a position? I say it again. Let's take a look at IWM really quick. IWM typically for Q4 does well. Let's take a look at this. Too bad, right? Yesterday, breaking, right? just to show you how yesterday's picture, certainly not today's picture right at the open. Yesterday, if you were looking for IWM as a nice swing trade, look at how short this swing trade would have been. We hit the high overnight, consolidated, broke above the high. Great day for IWM yesterday. Then what ends up happening? We actually consolidate overnight and we break below that low today, and we are still going lower. So something to take into consideration that whatever your analysis is for your charts, and you can be an expert chart analysis person, all it takes is a news event or a tweet or something, like Oracle's news, and then that's it. So whatever homework you just did for 3 hours, it's right out the window. And this is why sometimes if you're just utilizing support and resistance, you're doing calls as well as puts on the ticker that you're looking at. So you don't have a bias. If you have a bias, right, and then the opposite happens, like today, you're not prepared. But if you said, oh my gosh, IWM's looking good, I'm going to go ahead and set, as an example, yesterday, an automation that we're going to just keep on going for the rest of the week. As long as I have my stop loss in place, as an example, 25% stop loss. If it's a long swing, maybe a 50% stop loss. If all of a sudden your stop loss hits, but you already have your put in play, you already said, hey, look, I'm going to have a put so that if I break, as an example, the 20 EMA, which you know I love as support, if I break that 20 EMA, I'm in a long put. You would have, right? You would have recovered your losses. That's, I guess, the point. Or you could actually say, hey, this is really a volatile time in Q4. At least that's what Sandy says. And so maybe using a trail stop would allow me to make profits in a stock while my stop is actually trailing, right? It's trailing my profits going up, so that you don't forget that your trail stop is all the way down here. So if you haven't heard of a trail stop, guys, I would highly recommend it in a volatile time. It could really save your capital. And right now, I'd have to say that capital preservation, number one. And then I'm also looking at those types of stocks that are hedge positions. By the way, what is the VIX? I don't have my label up today. I usually do. What's the VIX at? 1741. Wow. That's not very much, but let's take a look at the VIX as a chart. The VIX is a fear gauge, right? So when the VIX goes up, the market goes down. And so keep this in mind. You could utilize that, right? Could you actually just put, I know everybody knows how to do alerts, but they don't know how to automate their trades. That's what's I'm trying to teach everybody, is to automate your trades. If you know how to place an alert, but you don't get too desensitized from all the alerts that you have on your chart, you can actually utilize the pre-market levels for VIX, right? To identify to you when the alert goes off and you see it on your text or your messages that the VIX is broken above its pre-market high. That means take your positions off the table, guys, right? We now have a trend change for the VIX. If the VIX goes up, the market goes down, and this is a great identifier. I do see that we have our ticks is up above 400. That's interesting to me. Let's take a look at SPY really quick. As we take a look at SPY, let's see if we get a little bounce. That's what that actually means, guys. This, tick, you could do $ tick in your chart. Let me show you how to do that. If you do $ tick as an example, this actually looks like a chart, but really it's kind of a scale, and it's letting you know buyers versus sellers and what is the overlap there. So who's winning right now? In this very moment, it's extremely dynamic. So right now, the buyers are winning by 142 ticks. It's not very many. Once you see that get to 350 or higher, now we're talking, right? You could get into now you're like, I might be wanting to look at a position here, okay? And then if we reach above the 500 range, start paying attention to that tick factor, because you can see that actually start rising above that 500 to 700 to 900. And then of course the 1,000 is the outlier on both directions. You see us selling. So the same way that I just described this for the bulls for a recovery is the same way that I would describe it for it turning bearish. When you start saying, negative 350, where the tick starts to go down like this, when you start seeing 350, you're like, what's going on in the market? Is there any news? If it starts to rise to about 500, watch out, because it can start rising to about 750. When it starts doing that, more likely than not, it's just a probability play here. More likely than not, you're going to see the market start to decline, and as that tick rises in the negative direction. Okay, so we did have a little bit of a buy there, but it didn't get much steam. So you definitely want to take a look at the ticks and identify. But I really love the VIX, utilizing as maybe a risk on, risk off, if that's easier for you to identify. The VIX you can also use as your pre-market levels for the VIX's range. If we break above the pre-market high, the market is going to turn bearish. So if you have a whole bunch of open positions, I would start thinking about closing them or raising your stops to either break even or inside profit, so you can keep your profits. Or you can change your stop to a trailing stop, so that even if your ticker maybe has relative strength outside of the entire market, it can continue to rise while your trail stop is following it. So then you don't have to, the stock doesn't have to go all the way down to hit your original stop, but it's actually trailing your profits. I love trail stops. It really can protect you. So think about that if right now you're in a position where you're shocked about what happened today. You lost all of your profits from yesterday, and you're like, how can I actually prevent this? Because if you can start analyzing how you can prevent those losers, your win rate will go up. Okay. Your win rate will go up, as well as the capital will continue to rise if you can start limiting, right, your losses. And this is a couple tips and tricks today of how you could possibly do that. I'm taking a look at gold and silver for next week. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Remember that we're still in Q4. Q4 is the highest volatility month. So if you don't like all these gaps and craziness, just stay out of the market until after the holidays. Q1, be cognizant in the beginning of Q1. We really want to see in January where some of the earnings reports comes in. We really want to see what the forecast is for 2026. That sets the tone for the entire year, so you could be better prepared. Hope this was a great session. Guys, see you next week. Have a great weekend.